Tori, a boy with no talent beyond simple everyday magic, works as a servant in the Adventurers Guild to provide for his ailing younger brother. The only monsters he can handle are weak slimes, which yield only meager stones worth barely enough to survive. Looked down on and mistreated by the other guild members, he quietly endures. One day, while exploring a forgotten cave, he stumbles across a mysterious book that speaks to him. Do you wish to hold a true source of power? From that moment, Tori's destiny shifts. The tale of the powerless boy and his journey to claim the forbidden stone of unmatched magic begins here. The story begins as Tori is being bullied by his guild members in a mountain. They threw slimes at him as he was tied down, all for the sake of getting the slime's monster stone. They enjoyed it as they toyed with him. In this world, magic stones turn into money. The two main sources of income for adventurers in this world are quest completion rewards and exchanging magic stones for money. When you defeat one monster, a magic stone appears from its body. The exchange rates vary depending on the magic stone. A slime's magic stone is worth about 1 copper, which is approximately 500 yen. The guy named Kahal was the leader torturing him. He asked Tori what's up. Is he giving up already? Though struggling, Tori asked if he endures without struggling. Will he keep his promise to give him all the magic stones? Tori is age 16. Occupation is Adventurer Rookie. He is affiliated with Azure Flamewings, and he specializes in life magic. Kahal stuffed the slime in Tori's mouth. So annoying, he commented. I told you not to confirm everything, you errand boy. You really talk too much. Even so, I can't believe a weakling like you is the younger brother of Nail. Tori couldn't refute that fact. Unlike his older brother, he has no talent as an adventurer. That's why he has no choice but to endure. He needs the magic stones. Kahal told his other team member that they've gathered a bit of change, should they head back soon. He then told Tori they should see later. He should untie the ropes himself. He picked up a slime and told Tori he'd figure out how to untie the rope with his life magic specialty. Tori, worried, asked what about his share of the magic stone. That's not what he promised. Immediately, Kahal stuffed the slime in his mouth, making Tori throw up. What a shame, Kahal commented. Since you threw up just as we agreed, you get no share, Tori argued. You gotta be kidding me, I need money. But, Kahal said to him that if he wants money, why doesn't he sell off some of his self-proclaimed amazing older brother's equipment, since his older brother, who was poisoned, would probably die soon. They laughed as they mocked him, telling him that if he wants to resent someone he should resent his own weakness. Tori was speechless, but his aim now was to get home fast, so he decided to untie the rope. He even washed and dried his clothes in the process. While doing chores, life magic was the only thing he became good at. Thanks to that, he was able to join the town's Adventurers Guild. But life magic is completely useless in combat. His main job is using the magic for chores during camping. Though it's not an easy job, it's more profitable than other jobs. Doing his best like that, he would be able to support his family. Hours later he got home. He paused as he was about to knock on the door since his expression was gloomy. He hid his face and smiled as he opened the door, telling them he's home. His 2 junior siblings came to welcome him. The boy told Tori he is late. He's so hungry. Tori told him to hold on. He'll make dinner right away. He should just wait for a bit. He then asked about their big brother Nail. The girl told him he was doing well. He read a book for her today. He prepared a meal for the two and they started eating. His brother Neil asked how was his quest today. Tori replied, "Same as always, it was a piece of cake." Neil said to Tori, "I am sorry, because of me. I'm putting all the hardship on you." Tori told him to stop apologizing. All he has to think about now is eating a lot and getting better. His older brother Neil was an excellent adventurer who belonged to the Adventurers Guild, White Breaking Spear. After their parents died in an accident 6 years ago, Neil supported the family all by himself. But 3 years ago he encountered a basilisk during a quest accident and was poisoned. His treatment has been prolonged, and the medicine is expensive. Rent, daily food costs, equipment costs, miscellaneous expenses. Even if they live frugally, the savings his brother earned back when he was an adventurer are about to run out. Tori was disappointed. If only he could defeat strong monsters like his brother, he'd be able to get high-value magic stones. His brother, seeing his darkened expression, pulled off his necklace and gave it to Tori. He told Tori it should be worth a little money. Tori was surprised. Why would he want to sell it, he questioned. You said the magic stone necklace was a precious charm given to you by a senior adventurer. He told Tori it's fine. He's sorry he didn't give it to him sooner. He should please go exchange it for money soon. He knows his own body well. He can't go back to being an adventurer anymore. Tori gritted his teeth, told him not to say things like that. Anyway, he told Tori he is giving it to him. The kids came in. They thanked Tori for the meal. The little one said she wants to feed her big brother Neil. Tori left the room. The two started feeding Neil. Tori decided to work hard, unless he can't protect everyone. The next day, Tori was breathing heavily after hunting down a slime. The quest reward alone isn't enough to earn money. That's why on his day off, he goes out hunting alone to get magic stones. But even if he runs around all day long, he can't even defeat 100 slimes, which is an income of just under 100 copper coins. Now he only got 3 magic stones. He definitely needs more money. Suddenly, from above, a girl asked him if the Adhine River is over there. Tori looked up. It was a girl. Age 17, occupation is adventurer archer. She's affiliated with Azure Flame Wings. She's a ranged squad leader who specializes in wind magic. He was surprised to see her. She asked how did he know her. He told her he's in the same guild as her, the Azure Flame Wings. He then told her his name is Tori. He's the camp liaison. But she wasn't interested in his identity. Tori knew that it's expected she doesn't know a low-ranking guy like him since she's the raid squad leader who was recently scouted. He then pointed the Adhine River location to her. He suggested she should go around since there's a swamp on the way. She thanked him. Tori was happy he talked to her. But then Cahal waved at her. He asked jokingly what is she doing on her day off. She replied she's just earning some small change. He stopped her as she was about to leave, suggested they should go for a drink now. She told him no, maybe not today. But then, he held her bow, told her to come on, he'd treat her. Tori saw this. His busybody couldn't mind his business. He knew how pushy Cahal was, but even so, Cahal is the Azure Flame Wings guild master. But seeing that Mina is in trouble, he decided to do something. He saw the weakened slime on his leg, then threw it at Cahal, shouted for him to look out for the slime. Tori then flew and cut it before it could get to Cahal. The liquid splashed all over Cahal's face. Cahal angrily said to Tori, "What do you think you are doing, you bastard? Is this revenge for last time?" Tori realized Cahal will definitely kill him, so he ran away at full speed while Cahal chased him. Mina had no idea what was going on. "Tori is definitely a strange kid," she commented. Minutes later, Tori was still running. He worriedly said to himself that he provoked Cahal without even thinking of what will happen next. He ran all the way to the back of the forest, wondering if he had finally lost Cahal. But then, he stepped on something and fell deep underground. Though he wasn't injured, he was surprised to see the place was full of human bones. He wondered if it's a dragon's nest or something. He couldn't believe such a place exists deep in the forest. Though Cahal won't follow him so far deep, he decided to find another exit fast. That was when he kicked a red book, but he had no idea what it was. He picked it up, realized it might sell for a high price. He tried opening it, but it refused to open. He wondered maybe it's stuck with glue or something. What a weird book. Though he's curious about what is written inside. If it won't open, there's nothing he can do. But then, as soon as his magic necklace touched the book, there was a reaction. A very intense magic fluctuation occurred. The book opened. Then gradually something started appearing on it. It was beard and a writing. Then came a voice. The voice cleared its throat and asked Tori if he can hear it. Tori panicked and threw the book away. He couldn't believe the book could speak. The book, on the ground, said to him, "The fact that you were able to open this book means you must be a very strong adventurer." He then welcomed Tori and told him he can call him Beard. Tori had a thorough look at the book. He wondered what kind of book it is. He has never seen a talking book before. He thought maybe it's some kind of dangerous book. The book asked Tori, by the way, who opened the book, wouldn't he like to obtain a real magic stone? Tori asked, "What does he mean by that?" "Just as I thought, you don't know," the book commented. He told Tori that a real magic stone is called a magic crystal. If you want to obtain a magic crystal, he must faithfully replicate the method he has written in the book, since a magic crystal is worth 100 times more than a normal magic stone. Tori was shocked to hear this news, because if that's true, he can get his brother the proper treatment he needs. He paused, thinking he shouldn't trust what the book is saying. What if the book is some new type of monster? The beard then told him they should begin with Chapter 1. He shall now teach him how to obtain a slime's magic crystal. The most important thing for obtaining a slime's magic crystal is to not try to kill the slime, since slimes are very sensitive to killing intent. Sensing killing intent makes a slime agitated. If you get them agitated, the magic stone inside their body will be useless. So if you want to obtain a magic crystal, he must not let them sense his killing intent. Tori was dumbfounded since he has never heard such a theory before. With that in mind, the beard continued. He would also briefly teach him about the ecosystem of slimes. Just for starters, a slime is a monster that latches onto a person's face to suffocate them, then consumes them. A single slime's attack is simple and not much of a threat. However, being attacked by several at once is very dangerous, so he's going to use that to his advantage. Tori asked how will he use it to his advantage. The beard told Tori he would now teach him the simple 3-step method for how to obtain a slime's magic crystal. He told Tori the method, which made Tori throw the book away angrily, since no one would dare do something that reckless. He wondered what the hell is he doing letting himself get misled by some incomprehensible book. The whole crystal thing might just be a lie anyway. In any case, he picked up his sword to leave the cave first. But then, he stumbled upon a slime. To his surprise, there weren't just one, but a huge swarm of them. He swung his sword to take down the ones that were coming after him. He refused to die in such a place, because if he don't go home, there would be no one to make dinner. There would be no one to earn the money for his brother Neil's treatment. There would be no one to protect his family. Though he took down quite a number of slimes, he wasn't able to take them all. He was surrounded, being pounced on by the slime. His body felt heavy. He couldn't move, and at the rate things are going he would be swallowed. Now his only choice was the book. He placed his hand on it and panicked, shouting at the book to tell him those 3 steps again, please. The beard told him, all right, it seems you have made up your mind. The first step of how to obtain a slime's magic crystal is to get eaten by a slime. The book was surprised to see he was already being eaten by slimes, told Tori how diligent of him to already be putting it into practice. Tori told him to stop yapping and continue explaining. Before that, the beard questioned, have you already forgotten the pointers I just taught you? Slimes get agitated when they sense killing intent, so to keep them from depleting their magic stones you mustn't let them sense your killing intent. First you should get rid of your sword. Tori hesitated at first, but he knew he would die if he don't do anything, so he has no choice but to do as instructed. In order to go back home alive, he have to believe what the weird book is saying. He then threw away his sword. He decided to calm down while he's being drowned by the slimes. The beard told him that's good. Just like that, he should calm his mind and assume a pose that lets them do as they please. Now then, moving on. The step 2 of how to obtain a slime's magic crystal is to devour the slime. The slime is a monster whose identity is based on consumption. They would never imagine that they themselves would be consumed. Tori didn't hesitate. He started eating them, but then the book told him that wasn't exactly what he meant. The devour he used was just a figure of speech. He just need to deploy a storage item, or something similar, around his face where they're gathering. Tori was already getting out of breath. He realized struggling is no use. He can't breathe anymore, he is going to die. The book, seeing that he has given up, sighed. What a pity. This child wasn't the real one either. My dream would have to wait for a future era. But then, to the beard's surprise, Tori widened his mouth and started swallowing the slimes using the Storara spell, Storage. The beard was surprised. He deemed it interesting Tori was using life magic. Though it's a useless magic in a fight, Storara is a clever way to use it. He stood up, coughed, and shouted, saying he have already family waiting for him back home, that's why he can't die. He's definitely going back home. The beard laughed. He realized Tori's strength is the one born from conviction. More slimes charged at Tori. Tori panicked and asked the beard what's the 3rd step, how can he obtain a slime's magic crystal? At this point he'd do whatever it takes to survive. But to his surprise, the beard told him the 3rd step is to run away. The slimes that he failed to store are in a state of super agitation, they're dangerous, and their magic stones have gotten smaller, so it would be best to avoid a pointless battle. Tori immediately ran with all he have got while being chased by the slimes. Minutes later, he arrived at the top. He somehow managed to survive, all thanks to the book. But he was surprised to see that the beard is gone. He had no idea what the hell is going on. The book then talked again. Now he shall finally teach him how to acquire the magic stones he stored. The sudden speech startled Tori. The beard continued. If a slime is not exposed to the open air, it cannot maintain its body's water balance. Once stored, they will turn into magic stones in less than 5 minutes. By now, the magic crystal should be ready. Tori told the beard he is trusting him for now. He hoped the slimes won't come out and attack him again. He then released his storage. To his surprise, what came out of it was a big magic crystal. He couldn't believe he obtained a real magic stone in just 3 steps. One of it alone is worth 100 copper coins, just 2 of them would be more than his monthly salary. If one page could give him such an unexpected result, he wondered what the world is written on the next page. So he tried opening it, but it wouldn't open. He asked the beard, why won't the next page open? Beard didn't reply, he just said to him, well then, I'll look forward to the day we meet again, and so he wished him bye-bye. Tori was shocked. He told him to wait a second. He still have so many things he want to ask him, but there was still no response. He calmed down. He could see that the page he already opened can be read just fine, but the next page still wouldn't open, so he wondered just what is it that's required. He seriously don't get it. But thanks to the book, he got such a huge magic stone. If he cash it in, not only can he buy medicine for his brother, but maybe even clothes for Sasha and Liam too. He just want to eat a full meal for once. He put the stone back in his storage. He couldn't exchange it today because by now the exchange shop would have closed, so he'll take the magic stone to exchange tomorrow morning. He was very happy at his achieved feat today. He have never felt so happy before. Hours later he got home. He saw his siblings, Sasha and Liam, training. Sasha happily went and welcomed Tori. Tori asked if they were practicing magic. Liam replied yes, he want to be able to use magic at least like him. Sasha then asked Tori what did he do today. Tori thought about it, then told her he beat a slime and read a book. He refused to tell them he was chased by Cahal and nearly died. Liam told him it's rare to see him reading. Tori brought out the book. He happily told them he was reading it. The two had no idea what he was talking about since they couldn't see the book he was holding. Liam jokingly told Tori to stop messing with them. Tori himself had no idea what was going on, until he realized that the book was visible only to him. More importantly, Sasha told him to watch her magic. She picked up a stick and chanted ignition. It activated fire, but it wasn't strong enough to light the wood. She was surprised it didn't work since it worked just a moment ago. Tori decided to show her how it's done. He then activated ignition and lit the wood. Liam praised him for being really good at life magic. Tori apologized for not showing them more since he only knows life magic, but then he told them to look. He'd show them something amazing he got using life magic. Tori looked around. He could see there was no bandits around. He then released the item in his storage, and it shone brightly. Not knowing three guys were already attracted by the light. The two were surprised to see such a big stone. Liam asked where did he find something so big, but then the three guys approached them. Tori was shocked to see them. He never expected they were hiding, and it looks like Cahal isn't among them since they're always together. The fat guy asked Tori where did he steal something like that from. The other laughed. Just because you're broke you resort to stealing, ugh. Tori told them he found it in the forest. The big guy told him to stop saying shit. If a huge gem was in the forest, they'd have found it already. He then told Tori they should check it properly. He should show it to them. Tori, flustered, told them it's really not that a big deal. The fat guy told Tori to just show it to them already as he stretched his hand to take it. Tori pulled his hand back. He never expected today, which he thought will be a good day, to be bad. He could see his siblings' shaky hands and shocked expression. He wanted them to think today is a good day too. If that's the case, he decided not to give them the magic crystal. They were all surprised as he put it inside his storage. The fat guy asked him if he is deaf. Didn't he hear what he said? Tori held his sister tightly and said to himself, there's no way he would give the magic stones he got by going through hell. He then tried taking out his sword, but he couldn't find it since he threw it away when he fought the slime. In that case, he whispered to Sasha and Liam that he's going to run for a bit. Immediately he extinguished the fire, plunging the place into darkness, and he told his siblings to run away. They did as instructed. The big guy became furious, activated acceleration, and punched Tori down, the book scattering from the bag. The big guy clenched his fist and asked Tori if he's trying to escape by using the darkness. But that's just a monkey trick. The two kids stopped to check on their brother, but Tori shouted at them to just go already, that he would be fine, so they should get home first. What a cool big brother, the big guy commented, as he punched Tori multiple times. You're weak, but you're still putting on airs. While enduring his punches, Tori activated illumination. The bright light shone, blocking the big guy's sight. Tori then decided to run away with the opening, but the other guy activated playful vines and trapped his siblings' legs. The guy told Tori it was nice and dark, so why would he make it bright? It's like he's saying, please catch me. Tori charged back to save his siblings, but the guy told Tori to stop. He controlled the vines to tangle his sister. Tori shouted at them to stop. The guy told Tori it depends on what he does. If he doesn't hand over the jewel fast, his cute little sister's face is gonna get a scratch. Tori shouted worriedly for the guy to stop. The guy activated water sphere and shot it at Tori. Tori tried using drying to stop it, but it wasn't really effective, and he was blown away. But he refused to give up, so he activated ignition. The guy immediately used rain to quench his fire. He asked Tori what he's been doing. He can't possibly win with something like life magic. The other guy laughed while stepping on Tori, saying, you should know even a kid could use something like life magic, you're so pathetic. The other guy told him he's stupid for picking a fight with them since he could only use life magic. As they continued stepping on Tori, he said to himself that he was too excited when he got the magic stone, and he definitely can't win against them. It's not like a good day would conveniently come for him. He then activated his storage and released the stone. It rolled to the ground all the way to where the book was. As soon as the magic crystal touched the book glowed. Then Beard spoke, it seems like you are in a tight spot. Now then, the next chapter is 2. I will now teach you combat methods using magic crystals. Tori never expected the next page to open right now. Beard told him that the first step to use combat methods by using magic crystals is to cast a spell on the magic crystal. Tori asked him what does he mean. He explained, "You know what happens when you pour a different mana flow into compressed mana, right?" The fat guy then bent down to pick the stone. He was amazed at how big it was and was certain it would sell for a high price. Tori said to himself, just as he thought, for some reason no one but him can see the book or hear Beard's voice. More importantly, he had no idea what compressed mana was. He wondered if Beard is talking about the magic crystal. Beard told him this isn't the time to be exhausted. If he wants to change the situation now, he'd have no choice but to do what he is told. He then raised his hand to use the combat method he was told. He activated ignition and shot it straight to the magic crystal, since the first step was to cast a spell on the magic crystal. Tori sparked the mana crystal with fire. At first, nothing, just silence, a beat of doubt. Then the crystal swallowed the flame whole like it was starving, locking every ember inside. The brute facing him froze, disbelief painted on his face, before it warped into raw fury. He didn't understand what Tori had just done, and in true muscle brain fashion, he turned confusion into insults. Beard, unbothered as ever, explained that compressed mana stones don't just store magic, they amplify it, then spit it back out louder. His words hadn't even cooled when the crystal proved him right. It detonated in a blaze that ripped across the ground with a bang that could rattle ribs. The brute was almost swallowed whole, his flesh cooking in real time, while his crew recoiled like they'd just seen their god bleed. Sasha and Liam stood frozen, stunned at their brother. Tori himself? He couldn't even process what he had unleashed. The giant screamed, scorched, and finally dropped the crystal. Too late. The flames already owned him. His men scrambled to smother the fire. Rookie mistake. That blaze wasn't one you could quench. A minute later, their leader collapsed, half ash, half corpse. Brutal doesn't even start to cover it. Beard used the moment to lecture, as if the battlefield was his classroom. He told Tori that his own spark was small, but crystals carried compressed oceans of magic from the monsters they came from. He added that a crystal wasn't just a stone, it was alive with energy. Tori's disbelief hung heavy, but Beard wasn't done. He told him to shelve the wonder for later, and handle the 2 bandits now charging him. Those 2 were idiots, rushing flames they couldn't put out, trying to save their smoldering friend like they'd signed up for martyrdom. It ended exactly how anyone would expect: screams, chaos, and the realization that their giant was gone for good. Their anger twisted into rage aimed straight at Tori. They called him every name under the sun, demanding to know what he had done. But Tori was barely standing, too focused on Sasha and Liam. He thought about saving them, but Beard cut him off again, insisting there was a second step to fighting with a crystal. Step 2, force the enemy to touch it. Tori balked. How was he supposed to make someone willingly grab a flaming death rock? Beard explained the brutal truth. Since Tori poured his mana in, the crystal recognized him as its owner. Anyone else who touched it would be flagged as an enemy and burned alive. Ownership, however, wasn't permanent. Stronger magic could override it. Meaning if the bandits were smart enough, or stupid enough, to hit it with greater power, the crystal would swap sides. Beard hammered it in. Tori's priority wasn't his siblings, but protecting the crystal. Tori clenched his teeth. Easy words from a man with no family to protect. He looked at Sasha and Liam's terrified faces, his heart breaking at the thought of leaving them vulnerable. He thought about Neil, his elder brother, and wondered what Neil would have done. Neil never wavered, never lowered his axe until an enemy was down. That memory stuck. Meanwhile, one of the surviving bandits decided enough was enough. If they couldn't win, they'd at least take the jewel and run. He reached for the crystal, and the stone answered. In a flash, flames tore him apart, ripping through flesh and cloth until he collapsed as ash. Tori froze. Another death. Another monster birthed by the crystal. Beard calmly explained. The crystal would lash out at any unrecognized owner, using the caster's original spell as its defense. It only obeyed whoever embedded their mana first, but Beard's warning followed quick. If an opponent struck it with stronger magic, control would swap instantly. That put Tori in a corner. Beard pushed again. Forget Sasha and Liam, the crystal comes first. Tori snapped. He thought it was madness to put the stone over blood. He swore he would never choose a gem over his siblings. The last enemy wasn't wasting time. He glared at the stone, torn between fear and ambition. He knew touching it could kill him, but destroying it? That could end this fight. He began casting a spell powerful enough to shatter it. Beard panicked. If the man succeeded, the crystal's ownership would transfer. And then, game over. Tori would be nothing but ash under his own weapon. Beard tried to warn him to think calmly, to calculate, but Tori didn't wait. He moved, faster than anyone expected, and scooped the crystal straight into his hand. The shock on both Beard's face and the bandit's was almost comical. Beard asked if Tori wasn't supposed to save his siblings first. Tori had his answer ready. He thought about Neil, about how his brother never backed down, never flinched, and he thought about Beard, who had saved his life already. If Beard told him to trust, he would. He admitted openly that he decided to put his faith in Beard's path, even if it meant throwing himself into the fire. Beard for once grinned wide. That was the spirit. The final step was near. But the last bandit wasn't done. He sneered furious and redirected his spell, not at Tori, but at Sasha and Liam. He wanted to break Tori by breaking his family. Beard shouted the third step. He told Tori to recall the monster the crystal came from. Tori's mind flashed to the slime they'd slain, the one that dropped the stone. He focused, and the crystal responded. Slime magic formed in his hand, a grotesque but powerful echo of the beast. Beard's grin widened. Tori had potential after all. The bandits' attack streaked towards Sasha and Liam, but Tori countered instantly. The slime magic erupted, swallowing the enemy's spell and backfiring it. The force threw the man across the ground like a rag doll. Sasha gasped in awe, calling her brother amazing. Tori himself stared at his hand, stunned at what he had just done. This was slime magic, raw and real, straight from the crystal. The bandit groaned in the dirt, broken and bitter. He demanded to know what kind of sorcery Tori had unleashed. Tori didn't answer. He only looked down on the man and wondered why he had ever feared someone this weak. The fear he once held evaporated, replaced by disgust. Cornered, the bandit began chanting his strongest spell. His voice cracked with desperation as he summoned a technique he called Finisher, Playful Banquets. Power surged and he hurled it at Tori. But by now, Tori stood unfazed, surrounded by conjured slimes. They absorbed the blast and shredded it apart like it was nothing. The enemy screamed, frustrated, furious. He couldn't understand how his might was failing against someone like Tori. Beard's voice cut through the chaos, calm but sharp. It was time, he said, for the final step. Beard laid out the truth. Tori now understood the basics, but true mastery meant creativity. If he could imagine it, he could shape it. Beard even hinted that if Tori ever got his hands on a dragon's crystal, dragon magic itself would bow to him. That was the real thrill of a mana stone. Limitless potential disguised as a rock. Beard asked if it wasn't exhilarating. Tori smiled, admitting the thought made his blood run hot. With his confidence high, he turned to the last enemy, declaring it was payback for everything done to Neil and to his family. The bandit, sweating buckets, screamed for mercy, but Tori wasn't feeling generous. His attack came like a flood, tearing through the enemy from every direction until the man crashed unconscious beside his burned comrades. The field was silent. Every opponent lay defeated. For a moment, Tori simply stared. He couldn't believe it. He had won. The boy who had always been bullied, crushed under others' boots, had finally claimed his first real victory. Sasha broke the silence, running into him with a hug. She called him brother with so much pride it almost knocked him down. Tori quickly checked her over, panicked she might be hurt, but she laughed it off and told him she was fine. She even said he looked strong, cool, even during the fight. That hit him harder than any flame. Liam stood behind, still stunned. He asked what magic Tori had just used, pointing out it definitely wasn't life magic. Tori brushed it off, telling him not to worry and thinking inwardly it was better to keep Beard a secret for now. What mattered was that all three of them were alive and heading home together. With the tension broken, Tori smirked and challenged his siblings. Whoever got home last had to do the dishes. Sasha and Liam shouted back that it was unfair, but the playful spark in their eyes said otherwise. Yet before they took off running, Tori stopped and told them not to tell Neil about what happened. Liam asked why, but Tori reminded them Neil had forbidden fighting outside. Better to keep today between the three of them. Sasha and Liam agreed, sealing the pact. Except Sasha lasted about 30 seconds. The moment they got home, she shouted their return and immediately started spilling everything. Her brother's magic, the fight, the crystal. Tori had to clap a hand over her mouth mid-sentence, muttering that nothing happened. But then his eyes caught Neil, not lying in bed like he should have been, but standing. Panic gripped Tori. He begged his elder brother to rest, but Neil admitted he had been worried when Tori came home late. Worse, Neil noticed his brother's injuries. He asked if the day's crystal gathering had been that brutal. Tori admitted it had, apologizing. Neil tried to reassure him, but his own body betrayed him. His legs gave out and he collapsed. Tori's heart lurched. He ordered Sasha and Liam to help Neil back into bed, insisting their brother needed to rest more than ever. Dinner followed quietly, then baths, then sleep. But Tori didn't rest. He lay awake, staring at Neil, whispering inwardly that he couldn't tell him the truth. Neil already carried too much. Instead, Tori pulled out the book. Its secrets still gnawed at him. Only one page had opened, the day the necklace touched it. Tonight that memory returned. He glanced at the necklace around his neck, wondering if the connection was real. Then Beard appeared. Out of nowhere, as always. Tori nearly screamed, scrambling to check if he'd woken his siblings. Luckily, they slept on. He hissed at Beard to stop popping up like a ghost in the middle of the night. Beard waved it off, saying he only had a supplement to add. Annoyed but cautious, Tori slipped outside to talk. Under the night air, he warned Beard not to appear so suddenly again. Beard told him not to worry, no one else could see or hear him. Tori snapped back that he still had his own circumstances. Beard's frown deepened. He warned Tori not to lean on him only when it was convenient. Still, he moved on. He explained that from now on Tori would gather many more crystals, but adventure required money. Without it, he was stuck. Tori asked if Beard meant selling the stones. Beard confirmed it, reminding him that since Tori could now acquire crystals like the slimes, he didn't need to hoard this one. He had already grown stronger even than yesterday. The words shook Tori, who hadn't even realized his own growth. Beard left it at that, vanishing with a casual goodnight, leaving Tori sighing at how selfish the man could be. Still, Beard had a point. Money was necessary. Tori decided he would take the crystal to the exchange tomorrow. Morning came. Tori put his plan into action, disguising himself with whatever scraps he had. An old helmet, a cotton beard, and rags so worn they screamed retirement plan. His hope that no one would recognize him as just a camp helper suddenly bringing in rare crystals. When he entered the exchange, whispers immediately followed. Adventurers muttered about the strange old man. Maybe he was selling his stash for retirement money. One even mocked that he probably had nothing but worthless stones. Tori smirked inwardly. Perfect. Let them underestimate him. He placed the crystal on the table with confidence. The room went silent. Eyes bulged. Gasps spread like fire. Someone shouted for the manager, demanding to know what kind of stone this was. Others wondered if the disguised old man was actually a legendary adventurer. They had never seen a crystal of that size or power before. Tori crossed his arms, savoring the shock. He asked them which was moldy, the stones, or their eyes. In this world, if they look down on you, they'll never buy what you're selling, no matter how rare it is. Bluffing. That's the only way to move weight at the exchange. Neil used to say that. And today, Tori proved it true. He handed over the crystal, masked as an old man, and walked out with his payout. Still playing the part until he reached a corner, he stripped the disguise and checked his earnings. His eyes widened. 1 gold coin, his first ever. The child in him cracked through the cool facade, sweat, laughter, disbelief. A gold coin could cover treatment for Neil, rent for the family, food, shoes, clothes. Tonight they would feast. But good things never last. A hand clamped his wrist. The guildmaster. His voice spat venom, demanding to know why scum like Tori held a gold coin. Tori froze, tongue-tied, sweat running. He cursed inwardly, why now of all times? But before the standoff escalated, gone. The coin vanished. Both Tori and the guildmaster spun, stunned. A thief stood smug at the corner, flipping the coin. He mocked them with an old proverb, 2 dogs fight for a bone, the third eats. With a laugh, he called Tori Mr. Careless and vaulted to the rooftops. Vanished. Tori and the guildmaster screamed for the return of the coin, but it was useless. Tori walked home empty, despair gnawing. He cursed Beard for staying silent when it mattered most. No answer, just a dead book. His siblings had expected a feast. Instead, he carried broken pockets and heavier guilt. But as he stepped inside, cheers turned to panic. Sasha and Liam's cries hit him like daggers. Neil's condition had collapsed. Poison relapse. Worse than ever. Neil's face was pale, his body failing. Tori ordered his siblings to watch over him while he sprinted for the doctor. At the clinic, he overheard a familiar voice. The thief. The bastard was here trying to use Tori's stolen gold coin to pay for medicine. Rage flared. Tori lunged, but the thief snatched the coin first. He denied everything. Tori shouted it was his, but the doctor cut in, demanding calm. He asked why Tori had come. Tori begged for medicine. Neil was dying. The doctor's response: no stock. He was out of Dryad's lost seed, the only ingredient that could counter basilisk poison. Supply lines were blocked. Even the thief's request couldn't be fulfilled. Tori's heart sank. No seed, no medicine. Neil wouldn't last. But then, hope. The doctor admitted the seeds grew at the base of the great mother tree in Garuma Forest. A dangerous zone crawling with monsters. Tori didn't care. He declared he would go. The thief stepped in, revealing his name, Clegg. He needed the same medicine for his own brother. He had been to Garuma before. The doctor protested, warning them both. But nothing would stop them. Tori and Clegg struck an uneasy pact, rivals forced into comradeship. They set out. The forest swallowed them in silence. Hours passed, tension thick. Clegg moved fast, taunting Tori to keep up. Tori cursed his speed but remembered his words. His brother's life was on the line too. For the first time, Tori saw himself and his enemy. Two desperate boys running against fate. Finally, they reached it, the great mother tree. Towering, alive, a monument of nature. At its roots, the dryad seeds shimmered. Relief washed over Tori. He rushed forward, shouting they had found it. Clegg called out, warning him to wait. Too late. The seeds shifted. Roots split. Mouths opened. The seeds weren't seeds. They were monsters. Dryads in their true form. Their jaws cracked the air. Tori froze, horror cutting through him. He yelled, stumbling back. But the monster lunged, vines whipping, and in a blink, it swallowed him whole. Tori was swallowed whole by the planda, leaving Clegg in shock. He muttered to himself that this monster was no ordinary plant. It devoured humans and grew endlessly, making it clear why the Dryad's lost seed would not be surrendered so easily. He recalled that the planda's digestion was near instant. Once inside, survival against its corrosive acid was almost impossible. Inside the planda's stomach, Tori found himself surrounded by the stench and slime. He realized in disbelief that he had been eaten in a blink. Panic gnawed at him as acid splattered across his clothes and shoes, burning through them with terrifying ease. Desperately clinging to the slimy stems inside, he tried to resist, but his grip slipped and he plunged deeper into the stomach with a bone-jarring crash. Acid dripped onto his body, searing his skin as he gritted his teeth, certain that he was moments away from dissolving. Then his foot struck something hard. Looking down, he noticed a glowing yellow crystal buried amidst the muck. In shock, he wondered why a magic crystal would be inside a planda, but hope sparked. If such power existed here, perhaps it could be his way out. He fumbled for the magic book, intending to summon the beard. The book slipped from his trembling hands, yet fortune intervened as it fell directly onto the glowing crystal. The impact triggered a burst of energy, scattering the slime and acid in all directions. Tori staggered upright, awestruck and trembling at his narrow escape. From the glow emerged the beard, remarking that a single misstep would have cost Tori his life. The spirit explained that he only answered when a surge of mana connected to a magic crystal was invoked. Next time, Tori should wave such a crystal if he wished to call him forth. Tori frowned, frustrated that such vital knowledge had never been explained earlier, but the beard apologized, assuming Tori already knew. With little time to waste, the beard shifted focus back to their dire reality. He declared that survival depended on obtaining the planda's core magic crystal and announced they would begin the next chapter, the use of magic stones. Meanwhile, outside, Clegg fought desperately against the raging planda. He expected its movement to slow during digestion, yet it only grew more aggressive. He clenched his fists, thinking grimly that without the Dryad's lost seed, his younger brother's life could not be saved. Apologizing inwardly to Tori, he steeled himself. If it meant burning both Tori and the planda to ash, then so be it. Clegg opened his coat, revealing tubes filled with volatile powders. Knowing plant-type monsters were weak to fire, he blended flame hawk powder with slime powder and bomb powder, casting them together into a violent ignition. A torrent of fire engulfed the planda, forcing it to screech and writhe in agony, rolling across the forest floor to extinguish the flames. Surprised, Clegg noted that this creature displayed intelligence beyond instinct, using its body to smother the fire. Yet before he could press the advantage, the planda snapped the branch beneath him and attacked with relentless fury. He evaded as best he could, floating into the air with levitation magic while unleashing spell after spell. In the chaos, he observed a crucial detail. Despite its growth, the planda's biology was unchanged. It had no teeth and remained rooted, just like normal species. Dangerous, but limited. A sudden lash from its branch slammed him into the ground, blood spilling from his mouth. Surrounded, he cursed under his breath, certain he was seconds away from being devoured. Then the planda began convulsing violently. Clegg, bewildered, recognized an opening. Summoning his last reserves, he combined panther powder with wolf powder, unleashing an explosive counterattack. The planda's stems twisted against each other, tangling itself in its own frenzy. Clegg struck again, mixing poison seed powder with moth powder and acid bee powder, launching the concoction into the monster's nerves. The attack withered several branches, but the planta still stood, refusing to die. He sighed bitterly, realizing the creature was tougher than expected. Slowing it down was all he could manage. Just then, a voice echoed from within the planta, thanking him for holding it off. Clegg froze, recognizing Tori's voice. The planta bulged and swelled until it erupted in a violent explosion. From the blast emerged a cocoon, which drifted gently to the ground. Clegg's eyes widened in disbelief as Tori stepped out, stripped bare by the acid, yet alive and clutching a crystal. He announced with shaky relief that he had nearly been digested but somehow survived, now holding the planta's core magic stone. The air between them grew tense, as Clegg stared silently. Tori tensed, suspecting Clegg might try to take the crystal from him, as had often happened in the past. But instead, Clegg asked coldly whether that truly was the planta's magic crystal, and demanded to know how Tori had obtained it inside the stomach. Alarmed, Tori realized he had no safe answer. His instincts screamed that if he admitted too much, Clegg would wrest the stone from him by force. Thinking quickly, he deflected, insisting they had no time for questions. What mattered now was retrieving the Dryad's lost seed before Clegg's brother's life slipped away. Without hesitation, Tori gathered the seeds scattered on the ground, clutching them tightly as he declared that with these, his brother could yet be saved. In the next scene, the doctor had finished preparing the medicine using the Dryad's seed. He carefully fed the potion into Neil's mouth and remarked that the boy's survival now depended on his stamina. The cure should work, but only if Neil's body endured the strain. At those words, Tori released a long breath of relief. For the first time since entering this nightmare, he felt a flicker of hope. Later, he stepped outside carrying a small portion of the remaining drugs. Handing them to Clegg, he explained that this was all he could prepare for now, and the rest would have to wait. Clegg accepted the medicine with a sharp glare that made Tori sweat nervously. He braced himself, already guessing what Clegg truly wanted to ask. Before the question could come, Tori burst out angrily, warning him not to charge him for the clothes he had borrowed, or attempt to claim more than half the quest reward. He also demanded that Clegg not pry into what had happened inside the planta's stomach. But it was too late. Clegg had already asked. His piercing words cut through, demanding to know what Tori had done in there. Tori froze. It was the question he had been avoiding. He had no way to explain the beard without sounding insane, nor could he reveal the truth without risking the crystal being taken from him. Hours earlier, inside the planta, when the magic book had landed on the crystal, the beard appeared, continuing his cryptic guidance. He declared that Chapter 3 had begun, the proper use of magic crystals. Step 1, the beard said, was to obtain the planta's core crystal, and for that, one had to be swallowed whole. Tori scowled at the cruel joke, pointing out he was already half melted, but the spirit reassured him that survival was possible if he followed instructions quickly. The beard warned him, if they lingered, the acid would consume them. So he gave Step 2, scatter ash throughout the stomach. At first, Tori panicked, wondering how to make ash in such a place, until he noticed the charred bones littering the acidic pit. They were flammable enough if fueled by magic. He lit them with fire spells, but the beard snapped that it was not enough. Acid dripped closer, burning holes through the flesh around them. Time was running out. Then a branch dropped into the planta's gut, swallowed earlier during its battle outside. Seeing this, Tori realized he could burn the wood as well. Flames roared, but still the beard demanded more. In desperation, Tori stripped off his melting clothes and cast them into the fire. They ignited instantly, turning to blackened ash that swirled in the rising heat. The beard nodded in approval. Step 3 was complete. Next came wind. Tori attempted everyday magic, but the weak breeze barely stirred the flames. The beard mocked his pitiful effort before pointing out a nearby crystal lodged in the flesh, the remains of a rockbird. By channeling its power, Tori unleashed flap magic. A hurricane blasted through the chamber, scattering ash across the acidic walls. The beard explained that the ash would neutralize the planta's acidic balance. And indeed, the monster groaned violently, its stomach twitching in agony. At its weakest point, the core crystal emerged, glowing from the center of its body. Tori snatched it in triumph as the beard warned him to escape before the collapse. But escape was not simple. Naked, with only his boxers left, Tori realized his body could not withstand another acid wave. Then a grim thought struck him. The panda's own flesh did not dissolve in its stomach acid. Ripping away strips of tissue, he wrapped himself in its skin, cocooning his body for protection. The chamber convulsed one final time before collapsing completely, crushing everything within. Outside, Clegg continued his assault, unaware of the struggle inside. Then, with a deafening rupture, the panda collapsed. From its remains, a cocoon tumbled to the ground. Tori emerged wrapped in the grotesque skin, clutching the core crystal in his hand. And that was all that happened. Later, when he offered thanks to Clegg for fighting alongside him, the swordsman only stared back with blank eyes, without a word of gratitude. He turned and began to leave. Before disappearing into the forest, he muttered that he knew Tori's name now, but he would never thank him for anything. Much later, the Adventurer Guild finally arrived, too late. They stared at the remains of the panda in disbelief. The subjugation was complete, and someone else had taken the magic crystal. Mina bent down to inspect the corpse, noting the withered state and confirming the core was gone. Then her eyes caught on a scrap of burned fabric. Faint lettering still clung to it, marking it as Neil's trousers. Recognition hit her. This belonged to Tori, the boy from their guild. The realization left her stunned. That child had slain the panda by himself. Late at night, when their house had grown silent and his siblings were deep in sleep, Tori remained awake. He carefully opened his adventurer's storage, the personal space every explorer carried, and brought out the crystals he had collected. The faint glow of magic stones lit the room, their colors scattering across the wooden desk. Among them lay two rare treasures, crystals taken from the panda and from a rock bird. He studied them with excitement, whispering inwardly about their worth. The exchange could pay for his brother's treatment, perhaps even more. But there was a problem. How could he bring them to the guild without being questioned? Last time, Cahal and the others had noticed immediately. If he tried again, suspicion would fall. His gaze shifted toward Neil, lying weak in bed. Could Neil believe the truth if he knew? That beard, a strange entity tied to Tori's book, was aiding him? If Neil accepted it, then maybe the suffering could end. Maybe the costly treatments would no longer weigh them down. Just then, a knock sounded. Tori froze, unsure if it was thief or guest, and cautiously opened the door. Standing outside was Clegg. Tori asked him what he was doing here by this time of the night. Without a word, Clegg tossed something into the room. Tori caught it clumsily and saw that it was a coin, one Clegg had once stolen from him. Returning it was strange enough, but Clegg turned to leave almost immediately. Tori stopped him, insisting he come in. Since he had borrowed Clegg's clothes before, he wanted to return them properly, and at least serve tea, even if quietly. His elder brother was sleeping. While waiting, Clegg's eyes drifted toward Neil's sickly form. The healer's instinct sharpened. He recognized the signs instantly: muscle decay, hair loss, and the hollow wheeze of ruined lungs. He muttered that this was unmistakably the venom of a basilisk. Tori stiffened. To identify poison from a glance felt unreal, but Clegg confirmed it. Monster toxins were merciless. Tori admitted the medicine was helping little by little, but the doctor had already declared a full cure impossible. That was when Clegg spoke words that struck lightning in Tori's heart. If they possessed a basilisk crystal, it could purge the poison completely. He quickly tried to press Clegg for details, but the man had already vanished, leaving only the echo of his voice. Now restless, Tori sat cross-legged by Neil's side, flipping through the ancient tome he carried. The book had begun to show new pages, an encyclopedia of crystals, cataloging those he already possessed: slime, planda, rockbird. His mind raced. Could it be evolving with him? From the pages, Beard suddenly manifested. Tori flinched, tossing the book across the floor, but Beard only laughed and urged him to record the crystals into the encyclopedia. Knowledge, he said, would unlock itself as Tori inscribed, and more importantly, there were hundreds of such crystals in the world. Beard wanted him to gather them all, and said he would share all his knowledge with him. And their interest aligns since he knows that Tori wants to cure his elder brother's illness. Tori resisted, calling it a deal fit for the devil. Why him when the Azure Guild was full of seasoned warriors far stronger than he? Beard sighed and told him that he did not yet realize his own value. Before he could reveal Tori's true identity, the ground began to tremble violently. Outside, the city walls shook, flames lit the horizon, and when Tori rushed to the window, his heart stopped. Towering above the rooftops was a monster straight from his nightmares. The same calamity-class beast that had cursed Neil's body years ago. A basilisk. Beard's voice turned grim. Their paths had aligned after all. If Tori truly wished to cure Neil, then the only choice was clear. With resolve hardening in his chest, Tori tightened his grip on the book. He declared that he would take the basilisk's crystal for himself, and told Beard to lend him his power. Beard gave a grim nod, his form flickering with arcane glow, and said it was time. Together they would move into the next chapter, the art of obtaining a basilisk's magic crystal. Chaos consumed the town as the basilisk rampaged through the streets. Citizens fled in every direction, screaming as rubble and debris crashed down. Among them, a young boy searched desperately for his mother, tears streaming down his face. His cries were drowned by the sound of collapsing stone, until a massive boulder fell from above, threatening to crush him where he stood. At the last moment, a shadow leapt in. With a thunderous smash of his warhammer, the rock was shattered into fragments. The boy looked up to see a towering man standing before him. He reassured the child, then guided him back into the arms of his frantic mother. She wept, clutching her son tightly, thanking the savior with trembling words. He simply told her to reach the high ground where the rescue teams waited. The boy asked who their savior was, and the mother explained. This was Angus, the guildmaster of White-Breaking Spear, known as the Black Iron Rabid Dog. At 37, he was already a legend, an adventurer whose specialty was sheer striking force. Angus surveyed the battlefield with grim determination. Even the smallest creatures were fleeing before the basilisk's presence, but he vowed to hold the line. Planting his warhammer, he invoked his defensive art, black iron stone, conjuring a wall of hardened earth and sending it crashing against the basilisk. The impact forced the monster back several meters, its hiss echoing like venom through the night. Angus roared inwardly that today he would settle the score for Neil, his former comrade who had fallen victim to this very poison. From the rooftops, members of his guild loosed volleys of arrows, pelting the basilisk from above. Yet its scales deflected the strikes with ease. A guildsman shouted that their efforts were futile, but Angus barked back that persistence mattered. One strike in 10,000 was still progress, and White-Breaking Spear would keep hammering until the enemy broke. At that moment, a crushing weight pinned the basilisk to the ground. Cahal had arrived, invoking his art of gravity magic. Angus grinned, recognizing the technique. Moments later, Mina followed, her arrows glowing with stormlight, piercing into the basilisk's hide and leaving burns along its scales. Their arrival marked the entrance of the Azure Guild. Angus welcomed them with a smile, declaring that their combined strength would drive the monster back. Cahal called their appearance a star's entrance, while Mina focused her strikes with deadly precision. Soon after, explosions rang out across the battlefield. Clegg had joined the fight, hurling alchemical bombs that scorched the basilisk's side. Angus nodded in approval, remarking that their forces were now united. Just then, Cahal said that he would like to commend everyone's attacks on the monster up till now, but it's obvious that they hadn't dealt enough damage to the monster, because the basilisk is still standing. From the sidelines, civilians began to cheer. With White-Breaking Spear and the Azure Guild both present, hope surged through the crowd. They cried out Mina's name, hailed Angus as their shield, and placed their trust in the heroes before them. Yet Cahal frowned. Why was no one calling his name, even though he was the Azure Guild's master? He shook it off, deciding that recognition was meaningless compared to results. What mattered was finishing the fight. Together, the guilds unleashed a relentless assault, pushing the basilisk back with strikes, arrows, and magic. But the beast's resilience was terrifying. Despite wounds, its venom spread through the air, poisoning everything in reach. Meanwhile, Tori ran through the ruins, determined to reach the battlefield. But a doctor stopped him, begging for help. Beneath the rubble lay a victim pinned and slowly succumbing to the poison. Though desperate to join the battle, Tori could not ignore the plea. With the doctor, he freed the man and carried him to safety, only to learn that dozens more had already been poisoned by the basilisk's venom. The realization struck him like lightning. This was not only Neil's suffering, the entire town was now at risk of collapse under the same plague. His heart clenched, the poison was spreading, but so was his resolve. From deep within the magic book, Beard spoke, asking if he was ready. Tori's hands trembled, but he clenched them into fists. His answer was firm. He would defeat the basilisk, take its crystal, and cure them all. Angus stepped forward with a sharp breath, rallying his strength as he faced the towering basilisk. The creature loomed above the group, its scales sparking under the rain of attacks. Angus planted his stance and called for the others to move, ready to engage. The squad unleashed their spells. Cahal fired bursts of destructive magic. Mina's arrows formed guided patterns in the air, and Clell struck with precise elemental force. Their combined attacks crashed against the basilisk, lighting the battlefield in shifting colors. A surge of energy erupted from Kali, who pushed forward with a concentrated spell. The force collided with the creature, exploding upward in a burst of light, yet the basilisk held firm, barely phased. Tori watched the exchange with unease. He noticed the way each strike faded against the creature's scales, prompting him to question their effectiveness. Mina, after assessing the impacts, realized the same. Their blows were landing, but none were getting through. Cahal paused, suddenly aware of the strain in his body. His magic consumption remained unchanged, as if his power had been restrained this entire time. The thought unsettled him, raising the question of what Angus had been holding back or blocking until now. Angus tightened his grip on his weapon, determined to protect everyone even if he had to take the lead alone. For a moment he sensed something off, an odd resistance building around him, like his mana was being drawn into a single point. He broke from the thought and pushed forward, abandoning hesitation. His roar carried through the chaos as he launched a full-force attack on the basilisk. The impact detonated in a violent flare, striking the creature's body with raw power. Shockwaves tore across the area, yet the basilisk only writhed briefly before recovering, its scales flashing with renewed fury. Tori's eyes widened as he watched the monster retaliate. The basilisk opened its maw, a toxic glow forming deep inside. Its breath condensed into volatile acid before it unleashed a concentrated blast toward them. Mina was caught in the surge first, the venomous force striking her and sending her tumbling back. Cahal rushed toward her, only to be hit by the same spreading wave that clung to his skin like burning smoke. The poison spread rapidly, pushing the fighters back. Mina struggled to stay upright, while the lingering haze wrapped around her. Kale, sensing the danger, shifted her stance and pushed forward, attempting to halt the force with her magic. Yet even she was forced back by the overwhelming pressure. Tori watched as Mina staggered, her arm marked by the basilisk's corrosive hit. He moved to steady her, but the poison clung stubbornly to everyone in its reach. Around them, several others collapsed, their bodies shaking from the spreading toxin. Angus braced himself, gritting through the growing strain. The realization struck him that everyone was beginning to succumb to the basilisk's venom. He tightened his jaw, refusing to fall while others still stood behind him. The spreading poison reminded him of the moment Neil's power had been taken away, an image that weighed heavily on him. The memory pressed into him like a wound that hadn't healed. Neil had carried the hopes of everyone. Clull's voice snapped him back to the present. Angus reacted instantly, shifting his body aside just as another blast passed through the air, grazing where he had stood. Angus steadied himself and faced the towering creature again, the basilisk's glowing maw readying another strike. He planted his feet and raised his weapon without hesitation. Even the small creature by his side barked sharply. Sensing the danger, he pushed forward again, refusing to remain back. The poison clung to him, but he kept moving. His position, however, placed him outside the defensive formation the others had created. Vines burst upward as one of the mages activated their magic. The twisting mass surged toward the basilisk's attack, clashing against the venomous blast with a violent burst of green light. The impact shook the ground, scattering debris as Angus watched the clash unfold. Tori steadied the glowing core in his hand, gathering the last of his strength. The magic within it pulsed sharply as he called on the vines again. The creature writhed as vines wrapped around its massive body. They tightened and pulled, restricting its movement while its scales cracked beneath the pressure. With a furious twist, the basilisk forced its body upward, its core swelling with an ominous crimson glow. The energy burst outward, releasing a violent flare. The basilisk's body expanded with a fresh surge of power, its shape shifting into a stronger, more vicious form. Pressure rippled across the battlefield as the monster's strength multiplied. Tori reached into his storage magic, drawing out a golden core. Power swirled around him the moment he touched it. He lifted his hand and activated the stored spell, letting the energy flow through him without hesitation. A sharp wind formed at his feet, rising in a spiraling rush. Wingbeat magic surged upward, sweeping the poison clouds aside. The wind exploded around him, clearing the air as he directed the force straight toward the basilisk. The others stared as the spreading toxin was blown away. Cahal watched in disbelief, struggling to process the sudden shift. Mina, held steady by him, blinked at the sight of the clearing battlefield. Even Clull paused, her attention locked on Tori as recognition surfaced. The sight of Tori awakened an old memory buried under years of regret. Angus recognized the stance as well, his voice falling silent as he watched the boy below. Angus thought he had seen Neil only to realize the truth a heartbeat later. Tori's energy, not Neil's, was sweeping across the battlefield, yet the resemblance was sharp enough to unsettle him. Tori reviewed the guide on restraining the basilisk and confirmed the first step had already been handled. Determined, he focused his magic again, refusing to let the creature's poison spread any further. His resolve sharpened as he aimed for the magic stone crystal, intent on claiming it himself. The notes in the guide backed his plan, and he used them without hesitation. Cahal and the others watched him, confused by his unusual magic. Some recalled how he had been experimenting with new techniques recently, unsure what he was becoming capable of. Mina and the others called out to him, concerned by how far he was pushing himself. Angus approached each other amid the chaos, briefly recognizing the connection between the boy and Neil. Angus noted how much Tori had grown, surprised by the strength he now displayed. Clay rushed over, worried about why Tori was involved in a fight this dangerous. Tori reminded he had become an adventurer as well, part of the same guild Neil once joined. That detail caught off guard, linking their paths more directly than she expected. As Angus stepped in, Tori recognized him. Angus acknowledged the wind technique Tori had used earlier, admitting it resembled his own. He thanked Tori for holding back the basilisk's assault, and called his approach solid. Angus then ordered Clegg to help the poisoned victims, and insisted Kell go with him for safety. Pushing them both toward the rear, Tori noticed the small dog nearby and paused, briefly distracted. The animal trembled in fear, its condition showing how widespread the poison threat had become. Even so, Tori focused on more than the battle itself, weighing the safety of everyone around him while standing ready to continue the fight. Tori watches as Angus steps forward, his silhouette swallowed by the rising dust. The basilisk lashes out, roaring as its vines thrash, Clull's eyes narrowing as she reads the rhythm of the fight. Tori hears her call out to him, telling him she's on his support, and he freezes for a heartbeat, surprised he expects anything from him at all. He stares at the glowing skill page as the voice in the notebook laughs, amused by how interesting things are getting. It reminds him, if Angus kills the basilisk now, the magic stone crystal inside it will be lost. Tori panics, demanding to know what happens next, but the book answers calmly. Extraction requires a precise procedure, and only one person can do it, the one who can hear its voice. Him. The realization hits him hard. If he fails to claim the basilisk's magic stone, Mina will die from the poison. Images of her fading flash behind his eyes. He has no choice. He steadies himself as the book flips to the next instruction, Step 2. Peel off its scales. That alone, it warns, will be the hardest part. The basilisk recoils, trembling behind a shimmering magical barrier. The book explains that some kind of defensive magic wraps the creature, reflecting any spell used on it. The restraints won't hold much longer. Tori's pulse spikes. The creature tears through the vines restraining it and slams the ground, shaking the battlefield apart. Angus curses, bracing himself as the fight spirals out of control. Cahal shouts that the vines were supposed to be thick enough to hold anything. Clull realizes the situation is turning bad. As for now, treatment of Mina is still going on, but it's only temporary. Mina said that that's enough. They couldn't let the basilisk advance any further. Down below, Angus roared through the chaos, hurling himself forward with raw force. He called the others bastards and ordered them to unleash everything they had. Magic and arrows rained upward as he slammed into the serpent's towering form. The basilisk shrieked, poison bursting from its fangs in a violent spray. Every strike the adventurers threw at it bounced off its shimmering scales, the magic scattering uselessly across the air. Tori's eyes widened. None of their attacks were working. Angus fought through the poisoned storm, spitting curses as he forced his way closer, but even he faltered when the beast pushed back with crushing weight. Tori flipped open the magic guide again, panic stiffening his fingers. If magic failed because of its defensive enchantment, then peeling off its scales was the only way. Any non-physical magic could work, as long as it wasn't the basilisk's elemental strength. He dug deeper. The power inside a magic stone crystal wasn't singular. The book's inscriptions hinted at hidden spells buried behind the main one. There had to be something more than just the bird magic listed on the page. As he read, the guide's voice echoed gently through the words, reminding him why they had formed a pact at all. He wasn't chosen for brute strength. He was chosen because he never gave up, because he had the stubborn drive to turn imagination into reality. Tori stared at the battlefield, breath tight. A person who could imagine a path to victory in the face of impossible odds was stronger than anyone, and now it was his turn to imagine. Ever since meeting the guide, Tori had pushed far beyond what he once believed he could do. The memories flashed through him, spells he shouldn't have been able to use, near-death moments he survived only because the book allowed it. He exhaled slowly and lifted the glowing core. If imagination could become real, then he no longer had to fear the basilisk's defenses. He tightened his grip, channeling every thought into one purpose. With this, he told himself, he could reshape the battle. Fragments of memory flashed again. The moment he was devoured by the eats planta plant, the acidic chamber that nearly killed him, the desperate spell that let him survive. The guide's voice reminded him of the lesson buried in that memory. He remembered. A green circle bloomed above his hand, runes spinning like blades. Acid magic surged outward, forming serpentine currents that hissed with corrosive force. The spell struck the basilisk. Its scales sizzled and warped under the acid's bite, melting layer after layer. The monster writhed violently, its shriek cutting through the night. Adventurers stared in shock. Cahal recognized the plant spirit instantly and shouted its name in disbelief. Others backed away, stunned that such scales could melt at all. Angus's expression shifted from surprise to something like pride. Now he understood where Neil's brother had been hiding all his strength. The basilisk thrashed as acid tore through its armor. Clouds of steam burst around it. Tori stepped forward. To him, Eats Planta was nothing more than a monster meant to dissolve other monsters. Acid was its language, corrosion was its purpose, and now, so was his. The guide murmured its approval, calling his idea good imagination, praising the resolve that carried him this far. The next instruction followed immediately, pushing him into the final stage. Step 3. Sever the basilisk's head. Tori stared upward. The monster's neck towered above him, its head swaying high out of reach. Doubt flickered for a moment, but the guide mocked the hesitation, reminding him he hadn't come this far to freeze now. He tightened his grip and ran, climbing the broken structure beside him. Each step shook beneath his feet, yet he forced himself higher. He reached the top, drew his blade, and considered using the shock spell again. The sword vibrated with stored energy. He unleashed the strike, only to recoil in pain as the force rattled through his arms. His own power nearly knocked the weapon from his grip. The guide chided him, reminding him of a forgotten detail. When he absorbed the slime's magic crystal, he should have discarded his weapon. With that crystal's nature active, he no longer carried a proper blade at all. Shock hit him. The procedure for obtaining magic crystals had changed. If he didn't follow it, he wouldn't secure the basilisk's core, and the guide urged him to hurry. The creature was preparing another spit of poison. The basilisk lunged downward, venom churning in its throat. Tori froze. The attack was too close. There wasn't time to use flapping magic to escape. The monster's strike landed before he could react, its fangs snapping toward him in a blur of purple light. Clay screamed his name as the blast swallowed the rooftop. Through the chaos, Angus's expression hardened as he spotted the boy being thrown back. Tori hit the ground and struggled to rise. He staggered, vision blurring, and collapsed. Before the basilisk could finish him, Cahal leapt in, grabbing the boy and dragging him away from the crushing bite. He held Tori close, shielding him from the lingering poison. Tori's eyes widened in shock. Cahal staggers under the purple glow burning across his face, calling Tori's name in panic and fury. He demands to know why Tori hesitates, then shoves him aside, declaring that only when he acts do the blue flame wings shine. Tori freezes, wide-eyed, as Cahal accuses him of hiding behind his brother's guild, relying on others, and dragging everyone down. Cahal turns away, spitting that if Tori wants something done, he should do it himself. Then the basilisk crashes into the scene, roaring as Angus swoops in and pulls Cahal from its path. The monster's strike shakes the ground. Cahal curses Angus for stealing the moment, then falters, blood spilling as the poison finally hits. Tori recognizes it instantly. The basilisk's venom is spreading. Cahal tries to stand, insisting he'll take the final blow alone, that he can't stop here. Angus confronts him, confused and angry, but Cahal barely hears him. Tori steps forward. He has to act. It's the only way to save Cahal. Tori shouts that Angus should leave it to him. Angus studies him in silence, annoyed, conflicted, before finally giving a short, resigned nod. He steps back toward the broken cliff edge, planting himself like a wall. He promises to hold the line, then orders Tori to go. Tori's face brightens with raw gratitude. He thanks him like someone finally seeing a path out of a storm. He leaps forward, sprinting across crumbling stone. Behind him, Angus keeps the monster pinned, and Cahal tries pretending the kid isn't getting under his skin. But no matter how hard he tries to smother that irritation, memories of Tori fighting through pain flash behind his eyes. That stubborn light, it never goes out, and that's exactly what infuriates him. Tori pushes ahead, fury and determination blending into something sharp and alive. Lightning quick, he crashes into the basilisk's storm of attacks again. From afar, the others watch in confusion. He isn't even dodging properly. It looks reckless, until they remember he fought this way before. He isn't panicking, he's thinking. He's seen a way to win. Tori calls out to Minai, asking her to cover him. She nods instantly, layering wind magic over her arrows, while the others rush in to back her up. Elemental magic bursts across the battlefield. Wind, water, shimmering impacts carving open space. And through that chaos, Tori dives in, cloak ripping behind him, power flaring around his hands. First, He tells himself he needs to reach the creature's neck. Tori runs along the basilisk's back as it thrashes beneath him. The creature snaps upward, releasing a sharp cry, but he keeps moving, using the shifting scales as footing. The basilisk roars again, shaking the ground below. Tori leaps, lands, and continues toward its upper body without slowing. Its neck coils for another strike. Angus sees the danger and shouts for him to act, urging him to use the hammer magic. Tori steadies himself as the basilisk gathers a dense red blast in its mouth. The attack erupts. Tori is thrown back but forces himself upright, while the basilisk snaps at him again. He remembers the others watching from below. He acknowledges his limitations. No usable weapon, no offensive spells. At this moment, he only has what he can create through imagination. He lifts his hand. Light forms above his palm, shaping the spell. The spell opens, releasing a faint glow. A golden crystal descends into his grasp. Rashibalt's magic crystal has returned. A brief memory surfaces. A young Tori in the kitchen with Neil helping his sibling. Neil complains about a dull knife, asking where the whetstone went. Tori turns in surprise, already reaching to help. He remembers how he once restored a dull kitchen knife with a simple honing spell. The blade had sharpened instantly, surprising his younger siblings. Back in the present, he steadies the golden crystal above his head. He knows this crystal and his life magic are all he can rely on. With that, he channels power through it, confident in the one field he understands better than anyone. Light surges around him as he enhances the crystal with Raishiru honing. The energy expands into a bright, spiraling force. He gathers it, compresses it, and prepares the finishing strike. He dives from above, unleashing the wingbeat slice. The golden arc crashes into the basilisk's head, sending a wave of light tearing across its scales. Clay watches closely, unsure if the blow was enough. The basilisk crashes downward. Mina braces herself. A message forms in Tori's mind. His strike only cut the surface. His eyes widen. Before he can react further, the basilisk releases a burst of concentrated poison. The surge engulfs him, striking him directly. His body trembles as the venom spreads. He forces himself to stay standing, blood running down his arm while the poison burns through him. His thoughts scatter, drifting to Neil, Mina, Kahal, and everyone else suffering the same toxin. He clings to one purpose. They all need the basilisk crystal, and he's the one who has to get it. So he forces himself forward again, even as pain tears through his limbs. The venom overtakes him. Darkness closes in. Just before he collapses completely, a figure steps through the haze. Calm, steady, familiar. Neil reaches out to him. Tori stares in disbelief, unsure if he's hallucinating or dying, but Neil's voice cuts through cleanly, telling him he fought well. Guiding him back, Tori blinks, breathing steadier, slowly realizing he isn't alone. His brother stands beside him, alive, conscious, and pulling him back from the edge. The world steadies. The poison's grip loosens. Tori looks up at Neil, torn between shock and relief, and then straightens, determined. Neil held Tori in his arms. Poison leaks from his nose, but he forces himself upright, keeping Tori behind him. His breathing turns rough as the burning spreads through his veins, yet he focuses only on the monster ahead. But Neil simply tells him to leave the rest to him. The basilisk rises, its body coiled and pulsing with venom. Neil lifts the heavy axe despite the poison slowing his limbs, steadying himself. He names the creature under his breath and moves in. The basilisk lunges. Neil meets it with a powerful swing, the axe cleaving through scales. The monster thrashes, but he continues striking, ignoring the pain spreading through his body. Venom gathers in its throat and fires in a bursting orb. Neil cuts straight through it, the poison splashing across him. The two clash in violent bursts of force until Neil forces his way upward and brings the axe down with full strength. The blow tears through the basilisk's head and drives it into the ice. Its body collapses under the impact. The others watch in disbelief, whispering among themselves about his strength and how he endures the poison. Mina recognizes the shift first, quietly identifying it as enhancement magic. Tori stares in confusion, still unfamiliar with the magic his own brother uses. Angus steps forward and scoffs at Tori's reaction, pointing out how strange it is to not recognize his own brother's magic. He explains that Neil specializes in physical enhancement spells, each one boosting a different aspect of his body. Stamina, defense, magic duration, attack power, agility, layering every boost at once. They mention how when Neil uses all of them together, the only thing an enemy sees is a burst of white light before he breaks through armor and bone with a single strike. Neil steadies himself, the faint glow still wrapping around him. He tells Tori that this is the White Seal family's magic, reminding him that the man in front of them truly is his brother. The adventurers relax slightly, noting how long Neil took to appear. Tori gives a small nod, still processing everything. Neil's strength is once again tested as the basilisk continues its assault. Cahal mutters about whether Neil came to save his brother or settle a past grudge. Neil pushes forward even though the poison is spreading through him, his breathing uneven. They doubt he can win in that condition, wondering if he can even defeat the basilisk on a third attempt. The narration shifts to 6 years earlier. A group travels through a calm forest while discussing how the quest rank rises with the land's danger level. They speak about recent increases in adventurer activity and believe monster movement has grown more frequent. Tori, still a small child then, trails behind the group picking up mushrooms. His parents join the conversation, mentioning that strange patterns keep appearing in different locations. They worry that the growing number of adventurers may be related. His mother brings up Tori's future, wondering what his occupation might be one day. His father jokes lightly about the pressure all children feel to choose. Further along the road, when asked to Tori about what occupation he thinks he will awaken, Tori lifts his head, startled by the sudden attention. Suddenly, a monstrous shadow descends, consuming an adventurer. The basilisk towers above him, its body coiling with killing intent. The adults freeze, their shouts breaking through the forest as they realize what is happening. Tori turns toward the disturbance, his expression tightening as the basilisk crashes into view. The group recoils, recognizing the creature. Panic spreads as some of the adventurers urge retreat, fearing their defenses won't hold. Neil's father tries to shield the children, but the basilisk strikes swiftly. Neil's parents push him away, forcing him and the others back. His father meets the basilisk head-on and is struck down. Tori stumbles toward him, calling out, but his mother drags him away with shaking hands. She shields him from the next blow, her body taking the impact. Blood splashes across Neil's face as his mother collapses. Kneeling beside him, she apologizes and begs him to take care of Tori and his siblings. Her voice weakens as she tells him she loves him. Neil screams, clutching her as her body goes still. Time blurs into darkness until a faint glow appears, his enhancement magic awakening for the first time. His breathing steadies, and the basilisk's silhouette rises once more. He remembers how, after that day, he trained without stopping so he could survive and find Basilisk again. When he finally located the creature 3 years later, he thought he understood his purpose. But seeing the basilisk return shatters something inside him, and he faces it again with renewed resolve. He grips the axe, deciding it is his turn to fight until he is satisfied. His eyes ignite with bright energy, and he launches forward. Power floods his limbs as he swings with everything he has. Neil's strike lands with everything he has, lightning tearing across his body as he forces the basilisk back. The impact shakes through him, and the others stare as his power surges far beyond what they expected. Tori watches with wide eyes, unsure what he's seeing. Neil's aura twists around him, sharper and heavier than before. For a moment, Tori feels small next to the brother he thought he understood. Realization settles in his chest as he watches Neil fight alone. His brother's strength, his recklessness, and the weight he carries become painfully clear. Neil pushes through the poison in his veins, refusing to fall. Every movement is driven by something deeper than instinct. Tori finally understands that Neil isn't only fighting the monster, he's fighting the memory burned into him 3 years ago. Another adventurer glances at Tori and mutters that the boy's condition isn't just poison. Neil's rage is eating at him, pushing him past his limits. Even now, he hides what that day did to him. Tori's breath trembles as he hears that Neil never wanted him to know. The truth behind his brother's hatred cuts deeper than he expected. Before Tori can respond, a sudden blow knocks him aside. Cahal came in to shield him, insisting that Tori shouldn't end up like Neil, driven into a mindless charge. Whereas Angus reminded himself, remembering he owes Neil for saving his life 3 years ago, he decides to repay that debt now and hurls himself into battle with renewed determination. Tori watches him leap forward, carrying his massive weapon straight toward the raging basilisk. The ground shakes as he throws himself into the path Neil had taken alone. Tori barely processes it when the book calls out to him, saying, there is something Tori must be given, because the basilisk has barely taken real damage while Neil is already reaching his limit. Tori's eyes widen as the truth sinks in. Neil's magic burns violently, eating away at his own life to sustain its power. The radiance around him flares unnaturally bright, light born from someone on the brink of death. The book's pages reveal more. If Neil continues like this, he won't survive. Tori's own spirit begins to tremble as the figure warns that his weakness has forced someone else to stand in harm's way. The book explains that, as a rare exception, Tori will be granted another step forward, but taking it will change him, leaving him no longer the same person when he returns. Before Tori can respond, Cahal calls out to him from behind, but he didn't listen. He refuses to let Neil die. He tells himself he will be the one to save him and pushes forward. On the battlefield, the basilisk lashes out in a blood-red frenzy. Neil's ally Angus slams into the beast with all his strength, but even his enhanced blows barely make a dent. The creature's scales regenerate immediately, and frustration twists across his face. He curses under his breath, trying to evade the monster, but even he senses Neil's condition worsening. Neil staggers. the poison already clouding his mind as the toxic haze erodes his focus. A heavy heartbeat pounds in Neil's chest, louder and slower with each passing moment. He clings to consciousness, begging for a little more time. His parents' final moments echo through his thoughts as he forces the magic to stay alive. Lightning erupts around him again as he drives himself past the edge, determined to push forward no matter the cost. The force threatening to tear him apart is met with the weight of Neil's hand, grounding him. Tori surges forward through the roaring current, refusing to stop. The two brothers collide with the masked figure mid-air as Neil shouts for him, but Tori pushes onward, determined to stand beside him. Neil tries to hold him back, but Tori insists he won't let him fight alone. Neil's exhausted eyes widen as Tori declares that the beast belongs to both of them. The toxic blood on Neil's face twitches as he listens, and a faint smile cuts through his worn expression. Tori promises they'll go home together, greeting the next sunrise with Liam and Sasha. Neil finally understands. His mother's final request, that someone look after Tori, rises in his thoughts. It was never revenge that kept him moving. It was the desire to carry their lives forward. He asks himself if dying here would only force Tori to inherit the same burden. The hesitation breaks through his anger. He steadies his breath, and when Tori reaches him again, he chooses to fight beside him. They strike together, blades and fists driving into the basilisk's gaping jaws. The others watch in sharp fear as the beast begins to swallow them whole. Panic hits the group as the basilisk's maw closes around both brothers. Then a spell ignites behind them. A burst of violet power forms in Cahal's hands as she hurls gravity magic toward the monster. The gravity spell slams down over the basilisk, pulling the creature into a crushing vortex of violet force. Its body strains against the pressure, roaring as the spell tightens around it. Mina and the others recognize the caster and call out in surprise. Cahal steps forward, pouring his strength into the spell despite the backlash tearing at his arms. Angus shouts in relief at his timing, while Cahal dismisses the praise, insisting he has his own duty to uphold. The ground cracks beneath him as he channels everything into holding the monster still. Neil and Tori are thrown upward by the backlash. Both of them twist mid-air, their bodies battered but still burning with lightning. Their allies cry out their names in fear as the force pulls them toward the basilisk again. Tori steadies himself, forcing the spell inside him to respond. He advances to the next step of the power he awakened, pushing his life magic outward. With his hands shaking, he pours the enhancement directly into Neil. Lightning snaps violently as Neil's body responds. His eyes sharpen, flames surging along his limbs as Tori's magic reinforces the strength he has left. Tori's voice breaks, but his resolve doesn't. He opens the next layer of the spell, honing magic, sharpening Neil's power to its limit. Together, they rise through a burst of golden light. They scream with everything they have and drive the enhanced strike downward. The basilisk's armor cracks violently as the combined blow tears through its skull. Both brothers fall back as the creature collapses, shaking the valley with its final impact. The group watches in stunned silence before one of them finally speaks. Realizing the monster is dead, another whispers that Neil finally succeeded. Tori collapses to one knee, breathing heavily. The others stare at him. This boy who, until moments ago, could only use simple daily life magic. Cahal's exhausted gaze drops to him. He remembers how Tori always interfered, always slowed them down, always smiled even when everything hurt. Scenes from their journey flash through his mind, the annoyance, the worry, and the stubborn warmth Tori never lost. While coming back from his memories, he watches in disbelief as the two stand over the corpse of the monster they all struggled against. Cahal calls them fools, though a tired relief softens his expression. Tori lifts his head, breath uneven but proud that they succeeded. Neil gives a faint nod, grateful in a way he can't voice. Before Tori can fully recover, Neil suddenly sways. The toxin in his bloodstream pulls him down, and he collapses. Panic flashes through the group as Tori holds him upright. Blood trails down Neil's hand, the poison spreading faster. Tori realizes the potions are running out. Someone shouts to find the magic stone crystal forming inside the basilisk's remains, and Tori forces himself to move. He sprints toward the severed neck where the crystal should be forming. The explanation echoes in Tori's mind as the book started explaining. Normally the stone crystallizes through the usual procedure, but this time it fused with both brothers' magic. Tori's daily life spellwork and Neil's enhancement magic mixed into a single formation. Tori pushes deeper into the torn flesh. The narrow space tightens around him as he crawls through, desperate to reach the forming core. A sudden glimmer stops him. The crystal solidifies in front of him, glowing with a deep violet shine. He lifts it with both hands, stunned by the weight and brightness. The others stare as he holds up a crystal, more than twice the normal size. Clegg calls out, and Tori answers that they finally have it. Tori hands it off as Clegg prepares the blade, crushes the crystal, knowing the antidote depends on it. The shards scatter as the magic disperses. Tori looks at the broken fragments as the book sound echoed in head saying, "Yeah, the crystal they worked for is gone, but for Tori lives matter more. As the mixture begins, Tori and the others hover anxiously. Angus asks for an update while the Clegg focuses on combining the ingredients. The basilisk's stone powder, kelpie whiskers, and the medicinal root are set beside the crystal dust. He adds a herb extract next, muttering that the flames consumed more materials than expected. Tori, still trembling, offers his own daily life magic to help heat the mixture. A weak spark forms in his palms, but the flame fizzles out just as quickly. His mana is nearly gone. Angus sighs, tossing him flint and steel, forcing him to try again the old-fashioned way. Tori apologizes and strikes until a fire finally catches beneath the ingredients. Clegg channels alchemy magic with practiced control, drawing the separate materials upward in swirling streams. Energies crackle in shifting colors, gathering above him before compressing into the small vial he holds ready. Light flashes. The liquid inside settles into a pale, glowing antidote. They wait in strained silence. Neil's breathing grows weaker, his skin mottled with darkening spots. The alchemist studies the vial, then gives a short nod. Tori steadies Neil's head while the antidote is poured into his mouth. Moments later, Neil convulses and coughs violently, forcing the poison out in a sudden surge. His breath slows, the tension leaving his face. The blotches on his skin begin to fade. Tori stares at him, wide-eyed with relief, barely believing it worked. Neil's life, finally, pulls back from the edge. Clegg held Neil close as the last of the violet fumes drifted from Neil's mouth. The alchemist, Clegg, quietly explaining that the vile substance tormenting him had been nothing but a poison lung. Angus hovered behind him, tense but trusting, watching for any sign of relapse. Damage remained in Neil's throat, but Clegg assured that soon Neil would heal. A shaky smile tugged across Tori's bruised face. He muttered that they'd made it. His brother was safe at last. Relief washed over him so hard his legs finally buckled. The moment he let himself relax, his vision tilted and the sky swung downward. Clegg jolted, shouting Tori's name as the boy collapsed. Angus remembered suddenly. Tori had swallowed a mouthful of poison too. Panic flickered across the warrior's features as he knelt beside him. Orders snapped through the night. Anyone with free hands rushed to Clegg, who was already mixing ingredients with trembling fingers. The demand was the same from every voice. Keep brewing antidote, don't stop. Even the seasoned adventurer boy had been pushed past his limits. Yet Clegg still forced himself to work, pale and shaking. Angus noted under his breath that the kid had done well. The symbols burned across the dead basilisk's hide as the book told Tori that something was off. Unnatural magic, deliberately carved and forced into the beast. Basilisks never approached human settlements. One appearing here should have been impossible. Perhaps some greater force was beginning to stir. By morning, life in the nearby settlement carried on as usual. Merchants argued, villagers bustled, and sunlight washed the streets clean of the previous night's dread. And Clegg, cloak fluttering in the wind, walked through the market square toward the clinic. Another long day waiting ahead of him. Inside, the clinic staff, who looked like a priest, praised Clegg's antidote, relieved that everyone poisoned by the basilisk was already recovering without side effects. Clegg accepted the news with a quiet nod, while the priest insisted the medicine required more than knowledge alone. He praised Clegg's talent, surprised that someone who had only recently joined the Whitebreaker Spear could produce something so refined. When asked who taught him alchemy, Clegg explained that someone had shown him the basics, and everything after that he learned on his own. The priest seemed intrigued, but Clegg shifted the topic, asking about Tori and the others. The healer hesitated before explaining their situation, and Clegg's expression tightened slightly. Outside, the settlement celebrated. Tankards clashed together as adventurers shouted their cheers. Cahal proudly retold the moment his gravity magic landed, earning loud applause and wild laughter. Angus wrapped an arm around him, boasting how impressive he'd been, while Cahal snapped irritably, tired of being called Angus's younger brother. Soon the two were bickering again, and Clegg stepped in, irritated that they had dragged half-recovered patients out for a drinking party. Angus waved off the complaint, claiming they always rewarded themselves after subjugations and that the association's reward was reason enough to celebrate, even if it amounted to little more than a single gold coin each. Clegg's irritation deepened when he realized every guild in town had joined the fight, making the payout far smaller than expected. Neil called out from the back, clearly enjoying the liveliness more than he expected. Clegg watched him for a moment, surprised to see him this relaxed. He had come to check on Tori, yet somehow ended up in the middle of a full celebration. Tori sat surrounded by younger adventurers, flushed from exhaustion but smiling as they teased him. They asked how someone using only life magic managed to help defeat a basilisk. Tori waved off their praise, insisting the real strength belonged to Neil. Mina blocked Tori with a glare, calling him out for killing the mood. She pushed a drink toward him, insisting he join in. When she leaned closer, already red-cheeked from alcohol, she warned him that moments like this were rare, treasured like spotting a rare beast. Clegg watched her wobble and sighed, realizing even Mina had been pulled into the chaos. More adventurers cheered around Tori, begging him to show off the life magic he used in the fight. Tori hesitated, overwhelmed, but their excitement only grew. Someone suggested the ignition spell he used for cooking. A candle was placed before him, and the entire group leaned in with eager eyes. Tori steadied his breath, lifted his hand, and triggered the spell. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. The group stared at the unlit candle in silence, while Tori blinked in shock. He tried again, but the flame refused to appear. Confusion twisted his face as he admitted it wasn't lighting. The room burst into laughter. Adventurers thumped the table, teasing him for missing his chance to look impressive. Angus bellowed that Tori had blown his moment, while Mina nearly collapsed from laughing too hard. Clegg could only pinch the bridge of his nose. Tori laughed weakly and excused himself, blaming dizziness. He slipped through the door, leaving the noise behind. Outside, sunlight cooled his thoughts. The poison was gone, though the ache lingering in his muscles reminded him how reckless that battle had been. Even so, he felt grateful. The town below looked peaceful again, safe because they had pushed through. He thought of Neil resting inside the clinic, finally free of the venom that had nearly killed him. Relief loosened the tension in his chest. He looked toward the bright sky and allowed himself a quiet breath. He was glad he'd given everything he had. He thanked quietly the book whose name is Hyge, grateful that the book had supported him through everything. When he opened it, a ridiculous doodle greeted him. The book dismissed his gratitude, insisting payment mattered more. Hyge's sudden voice startled him, as it always did, making him nearly drop the book. Confusion spilled out of him as he questioned the idea of payment. Hyge was just a book. What more could it want? And more importantly, why had his life magic suddenly stopped working? The failed ignition spell gnawed at him. Hyge explained that reaching the fourth step had changed how his magic activated. The construction he used to form internally now needed to be shaped outside his body. He had to cast as if drawing a magic circle in the air. Tori hesitated but tried it. Light traced from his fingertip, forming an arc of fire that hummed around him. Heat surged outward, far stronger than before, and the spell erupted with violent force. The street shook as flames roared past him, smashing into the ground below. Hyge vanished from the blast with a puff of smoke, only to reappear in the drifting embers. Tori stared at the power spiraling around him, unsettled by how drastically it had grown. Hyge reminded him that the shift in control changed everything, and his body had strengthened from the battle as well. It nudged him to acknowledge how impressive the progression was. Then the book made its demand clear. If Tori wanted answers, if he wanted to meet the being behind the book, he needed to come find it. That would be the payment. Scene shifts at the home. Tori heard Sasha calling him from outside. She rushed toward him and jumped onto him, knocking both of them onto the bed while announcing that brother Liam said breakfast was ready. Tori stepped out from behind the curtain, greeting them and admitting he had overslept. Liam asked Sasha to wake brother Neil as breakfast is ready. When Neil arrived to the kitchen, he apologized for making Liam cook again. Tori agreed to help, and Liam reminded him to pick up spices if he went into town and asked if they were hunting monsters today. Tori answered, and Neil entered, complimenting the breakfast while Sasha focused only on the food. They sat together and thanked for the meal. After all their ordinary days had returned, Neil recovered quickly, and Sasha and Liam were so cheerful that each day felt bright again. Watching them, Tori recalled that he used to dream of a day like this. He repeated to himself that he had prayed for this kind of happiness every single day. While eating, Tori recalled the memory of his when Hyge asked him to come and meet, calling that the payment. Tori reacted with confusion. Hyge added that his real body existed somewhere in this world. Tori questioned it, asking if he was human. Hyge continued, telling Tori that if he wanted to be an adventurer, he should find him and search while collecting magic crystals, and then wished him good night. Tori tried calling out, demanding to know where he was and what he meant by along the way. Suddenly the grimoire released a violet glow. The basilisk's data appeared inside its magic stone section. The entry described a purple stone that generated steel scale magic and listed a selling price between 600,000 and 720,000. Tori noted that rarity A was impressive and that the price was extreme. He muttered that Hyge was as selfish as ever, then paused as the thought settled. Hyge was a real person. Tori reflected that he had assumed Hyge was only a spirit inside the book, yet Hyge had taught him, someone he barely knew, how to obtain magic crystals. Hyge had shown him how to grow stronger. Tori recalled lifting a massive basilisk crystal, realizing how far he had come. He wondered what kind of person Hyge truly was. He admitted to himself that he wanted to meet him. A week later, construction workers shouted instructions as Tori walked through the busy site. He thought about selling the magic stones, but the exchange post was still in ruins, making it impossible for now. He had the stone but no money. Hijade had not appeared since then, leaving him feeling stuck. He wanted to meet Hij, but the idea of leaving town alone felt impossible. Neil was still recovering, and Sasha and Liam were still kids. Even so, the wish to meet Hig remained. Tori felt certain the world held much he had yet to see. He sighed and admitted that he still could not decide on anything. As he walked under the bright sky, a sudden sound stopped him, and he stopped with a sharp gasp. Tori spotted Neil practicing with a large axe amid broken stone. Wind spiraled around Neil as he swung the weapon with controlled strength. He launched forward, cleaving the air, then drove the axe down and sent debris flying. Neil continued his movements, finishing with a forceful strike that split the ground. Tori watched in silence, impressed by the power behind each swing. Neil paused when he noticed Tori standing nearby. Tori approached. Neil greeted him and asked about the exchange post. Tori explained that the area had taken heavy damage. Neil concluded they would need to hunt and stockpile magic stones for a while. Tori immediately volunteered to go. Neil refused, saying it would be good rehabilitation for him. His body had fully healed, and he wanted to rejoin the guild soon. He added that he planned to train that day to get back in shape. Tori asked if Neil could train him as well. Neil hesitated. Tori said he felt rusty, wanted to move around, and wanted to see how much stronger he had become. Neil considered the request, then agreed. Moments later, the started fight so Tori can understand how far he have come. He rushed in with his wooden staff, striking with all his strength. Neil blocked his attacks with calm precision and countered with a clean swing of his axe, forcing Tori back. Neil remarked that Tori's wounds had fully healed. Tori answered confidently and attacked again, but Neil deflected him with effortless movements. Their weapons clashed repeatedly as Neil outmaneuvered him at every turn. Tori tried to adjust his footing and pressed forward, yet Neil read every strike. Neil's counterattack shook the ground, and Tori barely managed to brace himself. Tori realized he couldn't touch him. Every movement Tori made was predicted. Doubt formed in Tori's mind. He wondered if someone like him could survive outside. He questioned if someone this weak could win at all. If he couldn't, he considered giving up. Neil called his name, and then Neil launched a burst of force that pushed Tori back. Tori steadied himself. Neil watched him and asked if he was overthinking something pointless again. He added that he didn't know what was troubling Tori, but said Tori would never make his first step if his heart wasn't in it. Neil told him it was fine to be lost and that he should stop hiding things. He said Tori needed to move forward with everything he had. Tori listened in silence, whereas Neil asked Tori to show all his strength. Tori watched him, quietly admitting that Neil was incredible and could read everything from a short exchange. Tori added that he didn't want to keep anything hidden anymore. Neil glanced at him, surprised. Tori looked down at the necklace, explaining that the necklace, his first link to magic and method to meet Hij, had originally been Neil's gift, and that maybe Neil could have been the one to find the book instead. He then asked if Neil would listen to everything. When Tori said there was much he needed to tell, Neil gave a simple nod and agreed. So Tori told him everything: the book he found in the cave, how to get magic crystals, the magic that used them, and the message telling him to come and meet Hij. He also admitted he didn't know where Hij actually was. Neil listened silently without interrupting. After hearing it all, Neil finally responded that the world was full of strange things. He added that he'd never known the magic necklace had that kind of power. Then he said it was troublesome that Hij told Tori to find him without saying where. Tori agreed and said Hij sounded arrogant, calling him selfish and overbearing. Neil then asked Tori to take out the book. Tori agreed and said here. Neil tried to look and admitted he couldn't see anything. Tori confirmed that meant only he was able to see and read it. Suddenly Neil attacked at the book, assuming it was in Tori's hand. Tori stepped back in surprise as energy moved around him. Neil said something was definitely there. The book opened by itself. The mustached figure Hij appeared on the page. He commented on the potent mana and said he had woken him up. Tori shouted Hyga's name. Neil watched quietly. Hij questioned why Tori was still in the town. Tori yelled that Hij was selfish and said he never agreed to go. Neil told Tori he should go. Tori looked at him, confused. Neil explained that Tori hesitated because he wanted to meet Hij. Neil added that it wasn't as if Tori couldn't go. Neil told Tori that if he called himself an adventurer, then he should take the first step. Tori repeated the word to himself. Hij said his guardian had already given approval and asked if that wasn't good news. Tori responded awkwardly, trying to explain, but then sensed something and froze. A sudden strike came down as Neil attacked. Tori reacted in shock and dodged. Tori tried to steady himself, while Hyga's voice simply commented in interest. Tori questioned what was happening. Neil stated he would be Tori's opponent, until Tori's hesitation was gone. Tori stared, wide-eyed. Neil continued, saying the outside world wasn't only filled with strong monsters. Tori would meet humans who stood against him as well. Neil told Tori to think of this as a farewell gift. Everything he had, He called for Tori to come at him with everything he had too. Tori listened as Neil told him to show his first step. Hidge let out a pleased laugh. It added that if Tori couldn't even beat his own big brother, his journey would end before it began. Tori shouted in confusion, unable to understand what that was supposed to mean. Neil didn't give him time. Strike after strike descended, faster, heavier, merciless. Tori could only dodge, skid, and gasp for air. When he finally tried to counter, Neil cut through the attempt with casual precision. Tori yelled in frustration, asking if Neil was even still recovering. Neil dismissed it, noting instead how much Tori's life magic had surged, likely from Hidge, and then he charged again. Anger and desperation blended until Tori shouted Neil's name, unleashing everything left inside him. Hige answered, storage magic cracking open, a magic stone dropping into his hand. He activated vine magic, green energy bursting outward as roots surged toward Neil with all the strength he could muster. After completely blocking Tori's attack, Neil pointed out if it was all Tori's real strength. Tori laughed and said now he will not hold back anymore, and show his brother Neil everything he's got. Sasha rushed in, calling out that Tori and Neil were fighting. Liam looked alarmed, holding what he had been carrying. Sasha followed and pointed ahead, telling him to look. The impact from the fight echoed through the clearing as Tori was sent flying, his body twisting before hitting the ground. Neil stepped forward without hesitation. Tori forced himself up. Neil watched him closely, reading his movements. Nearby, Liam stared in silence. He said they were probably fine and that it was likely something necessary. Sasha repeated the word unsure. Liam recalled that when Tori talked about becoming an adventurer, Neil had acted the same way back then. He added that Neil had also gone through this before. Sasha suddenly grabbed Liam and questioned what he was doing. Back at the fight, Tori steadied his breathing. Whenever something new began, there was always a wall higher than oneself. He raised Hidge in his hand. Hidge noted that Tori could not see the opportunity yet and asked if he wanted advice. Tori rejected it immediately, insisting he was fine and that he had to do this with his own strength. He admitted that if he lost here, he felt he would not be able to do anything later. Tori decided to put everything into this. He gathered power into his hand and focused all of it on Neil. Storage magic activated. A purple crystal formed in midair. The release followed. The basilisk's magic stone appeared, pouring power into Tori's body. Another surge followed as the magic of steel scale activated. Power surged around Tori as purple energy wrapped his right arm. Aiga's magic responded, shaping itself through his body. Scales formed over his arm as the basilisk's power manifested. Tori launched forward, driving the reinforced strike downward. The impact tore through the ground as Neil met it head-on, blocking with his axe. The collision sent shockwaves outward. Neil reacted sharply, recognizing the magic stone's power. Tori was pushed back, skidding across the ground while still gripping the crystal. Tori steadied himself and pressed forward again. He gathered his strength and charged, closing the distance in a straight line. Neil vanished from Tori's sight. The axe descended from above. Tori barely reacted in time, dropping low as the blade carved through the air where he stood moments earlier. The ground shattered behind him. Tori rose amid the debris, breathing heavily. He acknowledged the result. He could not win against Neil. Neil stood firm, uninjured, watching closely. Tori muttered in frustration as his strength faltered. He sensed movement behind him and turned. Neil spoke calmly, stating that Tori had grown stronger. Tori froze, looking up at his brother in disbelief. Neil explained that the difference between them was experience. He added that if Tori could master magic stone power, the outcome of their match would have been uncertain. He noted that it was impressive Tori managed to block his axe, and said that, with this he could send Tori off feeling reassured. Neil told Tori to go and said he should see the outside world. Tori turned back, holding the magic stone and Hige. Neil continued, saying Tori should no longer be seen only as his little brother, but as a full-fledged man. He stated that Tori had the potential to become the strongest adventurer. Tori stood still, absorbing the words. Hidge stirred in his hands, commenting on receiving his older brother's approval. Tori admitted that he did not know anything about traveling, and did not even know where to start with preparations. He added that Sasha and Liam were still young, and that Neil had only just recovered from the basilisk's poison. He said he did not want to cause trouble by leaving and doing everything alone. Tori clenched his fist as the thought lingered. A sudden interruption came from behind. Liam told him they would be fine. He said they could manage chores using life magic that Tori had taught them. He added that Neil would earn the money, since he was training again. Sasha jumped in excitedly, saying she could use ignition magic now as well. Liam smiled and asked Tori to tell them stories about his adventures when he came back. Tori turned sharply, calling out Liam's name, then Sasha's. His voice faltered as hesitation surfaced. He tried to continue but stopped midway. Liam looked at him in confusion. Tori admitted he did not know where he should go, questioning whether he could leave town with that kind of uncertainty. Liam reacted in disbelief, pointing out that Tori had been worrying only about that. Tori denied it at first, then admitted his biggest concern was his family. He added that he could not leave on a journey without a plan. Neil stepped in, reminding him that the book had mentioned collecting magic stones. Tori added that the bearded man often spoke based on scattered ideas. Neil then gave a clear direction. He told Tori to go to the royal capital, Leorga. Tori repeated the name, processing it. Neil reminded him that the person who gave Tori the necklace had said they came from Leorga, and that Tori should start by looking for clues there. Tori lowered his gaze to the necklace, recalling it. He struggled to remember the adventurer's name who had given it to Neil. Hije examined the book and identified the necklace as interference magic. Tori repeated the term, unfamiliar with it. Hije explained that the owner likely did not want their identity to be known, and that such magic existed. He added that even he did not know anything about the necklace's owner. Tori focused on the necklace while holding Hije, considering the possibility that if he could determine the origin of the magic stone embedded in it, he might get closer to the bearded man's location. Hije confirmed that this would narrow things down. Tori processed the idea in silence, then let out a short breath. Tori made his decision. He stated that he would go to the royal capital, Leorga. He announced that he was leaving and that he would meet the bearded man there. Time passed. Tori arrived in the village and stood in the streets, calling out for Angus. He shouted his name repeatedly, saying he could not find him even after searching the entire town. A reaction came from nearby. Clegg appeared, irritated by the noise and telling Tori to lower his voice. Tori rushed toward him, saying he had been looking for Angus the entire time. Again, Clegg commented on Tori being loud. Tori explained that his brother Neil had told him to ask Angus about various things because he was planning to go on a journey. Clegg paused, repeating the word journey. Tori clarified that he was a traveling mage and that he was setting out to find a soul stone as a solo adventurer. He added that Angus had traveled all over the world before founding the White Rupture Spear, so he wanted to ask about preparations. Clegg acknowledged this, saying that was what people said about him. Before Clegg could continue, Angus suddenly appeared in front of them. He raised a heavy lid and shouted for not to reveal anything. Tori froze in place as the interruption cut off the conversation. Then Angus explained that Neil had asked him to train Tori in searching for people. He remembers when he was talking to Neil. Neil revealed that Tori's power was not normal magic, but something mediated through a magic stone that ordinary stones could not replicate. That level of power, Angus noted, would inevitably draw the attention of the kingdom. Neil stated that the magic was far too great to remain confined to a small town. Someone influenced by Tori's power had already initiated talk of a journey, and the kingdom intended to act on that development. Allowing the power to leave before rumors spread was a deliberate choice. Angus acknowledged Neil's judgment, calling him a thoughtful brother, and implied that letting Tori leave now was the safest option. Angus asked directly what was being asked of him. Back at the present, Angus hesitated, admitting that he had expected to ask for a simpler favor. For that, Tori apologized. Angus reacted, blaming the situation on information being revealed too early. While Clegg stated that he also had business with Angus, Clegg explained that he intended to travel with Tori and submit a report at the same time. He stated clearly that he was going on a journey with Tori. Tori froze, unable to respond immediately. Angus reacted in confusion as well. The announcement spread instantly as Cahal raised his voices, repeating the words about a journey. The crowd reacted at once, their attention fixed on Tori. Time passed. Leaves drifted through the air as preparations were completed. Outside the building, people gathered to see Tori off. Angus asked whether he had forgotten anything. Tori replied that everything was prepared. Angus confirmed that Tori had the travel handbook he had been given. Tori raised it, confirming it was ready. As they began to move, Tori asked whether it was truly fine for Clegg to leave town, mentioning his brother's condition. Clegg answered that his brother had fully recovered, thanks to the basilisk's magic stone. Clegg acknowledged the help and stated that he owed his thanks. Tori responded that it was fine but paused, thinking. On the pathway, Mina added that Tori's brothers and sisters would be looked after by the town's guild, so there was nothing to worry about. She told Tori to enjoy the journey ahead. Tori asked for forgiveness on that. Mina stated that sometimes a simple thanks is enough. Tori apologized to her, calling her by name. Mina replied calmly that she meant it. Tori thanked her sincerely. Tori pointed out that the gratitude should really be directed toward Mina. Clegg agreed and said he would transfer his brother's living expenses from the guild's savings every month. Mina said goodbye to Tori, acknowledging that he had helped a lot. The group began to part ways as leaves drifted through the air. Suddenly, Shasha ran toward Tori and grabbed his arm, calling him brother. She smiled brightly and handed him an object wrapped in straw. The item revealed itself as an amulet. Tori looked at it in confusion. She explained it was from Sasha, brother Neil, and brother Liam, meant to ensure Tori would never feel alone. Tori accepted it and stood silently for a moment. He knelt and promised he would return after traveling the world. Shasha smiles hearing this. Tori added that when he will return, he'd tell amazing travel stories to Shasha and Liam. Liam smiled and said he would wait. They linked fingers, sealing the promise. Tori swore he would not break it. Nearby, Angus turned away, wiping his tears, whereas Neil muttered for Angus not to cry more than he was. Angus added that having siblings was something precious. With that, Tori turned forward. He raised his hand high and declared that he was leaving. The group watched as he set off down the road, departing the town to begin his journey. Tori moved forward along the forest path, the necklace resting against his chest as leaves drifted past. His destination was to meet Hidge. A sudden presence emerged from the bushes. Tori turned as Cahal burst out, shouting and accusing him of deception. He mocked Tori as a weak life magic user, and declared that next time they met, he would expose Tori's magic as worthless. He identified himself as Cahal, claiming he had been startled. He continued ranting, saying he had planned to use Tori further, and cursed him for leaving on a journey. He warned that he would not forgive Tori, even if he returned crying. Cahal stepped in close, pointing at Tori's face. Tori stiffened, then nodded in response. Cahal scoffed, turned away, and shouted a final farewell before running off into the forest. Tori remained still, watching him disappear. A brief pause followed as he processed what had just happened. Clegg commented from beside him, questioning whether that was Cahal's way of encouragement. Tori reacted in confusion. Tori's expression settled as he turned forward again. He considered the situation and acknowledged that, if that was how things were, then he would have to do his best. The forest path stretched ahead. As they walked, Tori asked why Clegg had suddenly decided to travel with him, wondering if it was because he seemed vulnerable alone. Clegg answered that Tori would likely feel safer with him nearby. Tori listened, as Clegg said he had something he needed to look for and had already planned to leave the town. When asked what he was searching for, Clegg answered without hesitation that he was looking for his origin. Tori turned toward him, surprised, but before he could respond, a strange sensation brushed his awareness. He stopped, glancing back into the trees. Something felt wrong. He wondered if Cahal still had something he had not said. Clegg suddenly shouted, telling him to wait and not move. Tori turned in confusion, then froze as the feeling intensified. Both of them looked ahead as faint lights flickered between the trees. Tori stared into the darkened forest, realization forming as the presence grew clearer. Something was there, and it was definitely not Cahal. Something feels off, and he realizes that something is here. Tori suddenly shouts that it might be a monster, and Clegg says this one is a vampire monster suborn. He calls them vampiric, explaining that these guys do not just suck the blood of their prey, and that they are monsters that can share the magic power they obtain from the blood within the swarm. Tori is startled and blurts out that it is magic power sharing, then calls out to Clegg. Clegg explains that even if they suck Tori's magic power, it would be a negligible enhancement, but if his own blood is sucked, they will become 5 times stronger than they are now and attack. And then Tori asks him to please try hard not to get sucked. Tori comments that Clegg is amazing, and that he is like a monster encyclopedia, but gets snapped at for talking about that at a time like this. As the monsters close in, he clicks his tongue and prepares his items, calling out Slime's magic stone powder and Bright Worm's magic stone powder, then tells them to blend. He finishes by declaring it a luminescent potion. As the light spreads and the monsters are hit by the sudden glow, Tori wondered if those guys were weak to light, and Clegg confirmed they would be too dazzled to move. Clegg told him to hit them there. Tori started to say he saw light, then realized it was a battle and yelled for Hidge. Hidge reported that the opponents seemed to be Suvobrats, and said they would start right away, but Tori told him to wait. Tori admitted he knew it was bad after he came out, but asked if they could fight without borrowing Hyge's power this time. Hig responded with then agreed and told him to try doing it the way he wanted. Tori was surprised it was easy to talk to, and Hige said he figured since Tori defeated a basilisk, this should be an easy job, and suggested calling it Showtime. Tori laughed and repeated Showtime, then said then he would take the ticket price later. Clegg shouted, "Hey Tori," and started to say that since he cannot even use life magic anymore, the guy who fell. Tori reacted in shock, then cast soil illumination, creating a bright glowing light. The bright light burst out and the monsters screamed. Clegg shielded himself and wondered what this light was, then noticed that Tori guy and questioned if he was not unable to use life magic. He immediately denied it and wondered if this was life magic. Tori stood in front of the glowing light, then called out to Clegg and told him to be his strategist, saying he would leave the plan to him. Tori praised him for knowing so much knowledge and experience and being so calm, and said it would really help if he gave instructions, then asked him to teach him various things. Clegg responded by saying, "Knowledge and experience conquer all," and told him that when he became a full-fledged person, he should come and see him, calling him his strategist Kun. After a pause, Clegg agreed and told Tori to be infantry in exchange. Tori was confused and asked why infantry, and Clegg told him to shut up. Higi laughed about what an interesting relationship it was, and said he would watch from the best seat, but Tori told him to be quiet because he could not see him. Tori shouted that they're back. Clegg wondered if their numbers had increased, and asked if the life magic spells, other than the illumination from a moment ago, had also been enhanced. Tori confirmed that various things had changed, and that only the bothersome steps needed to use them had increased a little. Clegg added that compared to the basilisk, these guys were nothing but gnats. Tori said he was counting on him, strategist. Clegg suddenly cut his arm, and Tori reacted in shock and asked what he was doing. Clegg reminded him that super bats are vampiric monsters, and that his blood is a lump of magic power and the ultimate feast for these guys. Clegg said that with this blood, he would eradicate the super bats. He added one more thing, saying mandrake powder and dried mint, then moved forward. The super bats swarmed toward them, and Tori realized the super bats were running away. Clegg shouted that super bats are weak to strong smells, and told Tori to keep an eye on their movements. Tori noticed where they were heading, and said they were going for that cave over there. Clegg answered, all right. Clegg threw something that burst with blood. He called out that the super bats were going into the cave and said he was counting on Tori. Tori understood the plan and said he would blow their nest apart with his life magic, then unleash it at full power. Hage commented that it was a massive magic circle. Tori shouted and released his magic, and ignition appeared as flames erupted. The super bats were caught in the fire. Tori went quiet and wondered if it worked, then said it was over. Clegg calmly agreed. As they walked away, Hig asked if they were not going to check for the magic stones, and Tori suddenly remembered the Superbat's magic stones. Tori looked at what he collected and realized they had not crystallized. Then Clegg asked what, and wondered if they were not supposed to form huge magic stones after you defeat them. Hig replied Tori that was what he thought too. Tori whispered this was why he told Clegg to follow the proper procedure. H tells him not to talk about that in front of Clegg, then adds that more importantly, he wonders if this is really okay. As flames rise around them, he points out that the forest is literally burning because of his life magic. Calling him Mr. Adventurer, Clegg panics and says this is bad, while Tori shouts that his magic was way too strong, and Clegg reminds him that he said he was counting on him. Hiji warns that their escape route is completely blocked and asks if now is really the time to argue. Tori looks at the huge fire and desperately asks Clegg if he has any magic to put it out, suggesting water magic or anything. But Clegg replies that he can only use life magic. Tori repeats life magic and suddenly realizes something. He declares that the preservation spell might work and moves to act. With life magic at this level, cold air spreads out, and Clegg reacts in surprise to the sudden chill. Tori calls out the name Kurisu Chill and releases the spell, sending freezing power forward. The flames and surroundings begin to freeze, turning the area into ice. As he pushes through the cold and shouts for it to hold, Tori yells that the fire is out. He immediately apologizes and says he still cannot control it. Well, Clegg adds that it is not alright because everything is frozen solid now. A voice declares that it has found them, and something slams down hard. Tori and Clegg react in shock as a massive shield crashes into the ground between them. Tori stares at it in disbelief and realizes it is a shield. A voice angrily demands how they dared to make such a mess. Tori is left speechless, and Clegg also freezes in silence. The girl steps forward and introduces herself as Alba, saying she will never forgive them and calling them filthy criminals. She swings her chained weapon down with force, striking the ground again. She glares at them and shouts that they are villains. Tori looks up in shock as Alba declares that she will not let them escape, and swings her chained weapon toward them. The attack crashes down, and Tori cries out as he is knocked back by the impact of the shield slamming into the ground. The shield settles in the earth, and Tori stares at it in disbelief, muttering about the strength behind it. Clegg panics and says this is not good, realizing they are up against an elf, and then repeats it in disbelief. Clegg explains that the elf race is known for having the greatest magical power among all living beings, and that their intelligence surpasses humans by far. As Alba moves again, Clegg adds that elves also live long lives, so their experience is on another level. Alba attacks once more, and Clegg continues that an elf's magic power is about 10 times that of a human. Tori is struck and sent rolling across the ground while Alba keeps pressing forward with her chained weapon. Tori says he does not remember doing anything to offend an elf, but Clegg cuts him off and says they burned the whole forest and then froze it solid. She yells at them not to play dumb and accuses them of being the ones who attacked her village. Tori, still being knocked back by the flying shield, yells in confusion and asks what village she is even talking about. Alba snaps that he is acting clueless and insists that he knows exactly what he did, then calls him the worst as she attacks again. She yells that she saw them with the Superbats earlier, and demands to know what they have to say for themselves. Tori repeats the name in shock, and Clegg realizes that she is talking about those bat monsters from before. Alba keeps pressing forward, shouting for them to stop running and stop hiding. As Tori and Clegg retreat into the trees, Clegg quickly asks if there is an elf settlement nearby, then adds that it should not be so close to human territory, but it seems that is not the case. Tori agrees, then turns back and shouts that they have nothing to do with the Superbats and that this is their first time here. He adds that they will apologize for burning the forest and begs her to hear them out. Alba suddenly shouts for them to shut up, making both of them freeze. She says that if they are gone, the Superbats will regain their senses and then the village will finally return to normal. Tori looks confused and wonders what Alba's even talking about, while Clegg also reacts in disbelief and says he has no idea either. Clegg notices that Alba has not used a single spell, and has only been fighting with her shield, and he feels like she is testing them. Alba suddenly senses something and turns sharply. She shouts that she has found them and charges forward with her shield. Clegg warns that elves have sharp eyes and tells Tori to move back. realizing that she already spotted them. Before they can react, a Suforbat strikes from the side, and Clegg is hit hard. Tori shouts Clegg's name in panic and rushes to him. Clegg groans in pain as he clutches his wound. Alba freezes when she sees what is happening and stares in shock. Tori looks up in horror as he realizes the Suforbats have appeared again, and a swarm of them fills the sky above. He looks up in shock and wonders why there are still so many of them. EJ explains that they are stronger now because they drank Clegg's blood. Tori reacts in disbelief as Hyde continues that Suforbats are hive mind monsters that share the magic they suck from blood. He adds that the one that escaped after being hit by life magic likely spread that power to the others, and now they have regrouped after finding their prey. Tori panics and tells him not to say that. He goes on that they have marked Clegg as nourishment, and if they do not wipe out every last Suforbat in this area, they will be stuck in an endless hunt. As the swarm closes in, Hige says that now this is getting fun. Tori stares at him in disbelief as the Suforbats surround them, and the situation ends there. That's it for now. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Let me know your thoughts of this manhwa through comment section.